on the agenda was already approved the last time. Budget review cemetery. Nope.
So Bridget's online.
Okay.
I'm going to screen share. It's invite Bridget to see.
Last time. That's a typo.
So if not, I can help you over here.
Yeah, but he was on.
Yeah, right.
Bridget, did you want to speak or did you want me to talk through this?
I was gonna ask what you preferred. I can.
Go ahead.
All right. So you're not going to see too many changes. The software price went up, so that is adjusted upwards. There is, let's see, where it. So I altered some of it. As you can see, we went down a little bit in our office supplies because I don't use a whole lot other than printing and photocopying. So that is pretty low. As far as repairs, that's really for service contracts. So you see in the special projects, the trustees and I went around and did a count about broken headstones or ones that have fallen or just the repairs in general. And so talking with Jim a little bit about it, it made the most sense to just budget money each year and do as much as possible. I did get an estimate for a kind of standard headstone, nothing crazy, not, big, tall, around 200, and I believe it was $35, something around there, per stone. So Peggy, actually, who's also on here, one of the trustees, and I went around and we did a count just to see and hopefully estimate that this is like a 2-year project and we can have all of them repaired in the cemeteries. So, and this is including mostly all of those older cemeteries. Some are just too bad and won't ever get repaired, but otherwise, that's really the only big number that you're going to see in there. The rest of it's the same.
And we're going to double check, but we will be looking, we have a maintenance reserve fund and we'll be using some of that money to offset that $2,000 for maintenance of headstones.
What's the reason why we didn't spend the 1,700 from last year?
So that was
Jeremy?
planned for tree work that did not end up happening. We were able to utilize our own employees. So some of the town employees were able to do that work. So we did not have to contract out.
Thank you.
No problem.
Bridget, do you ever do like headstone cleaning or is it just resetting them, that kind of thing?
So the interesting question. It can lead to a whole rabbit hole. We have some supplies and could do some light cleaning, but it kind of takes you down the path of once you start, then we would be expected to do it all. And that's not necessarily something that we have the capacity for. So really, per our rules and regulations, the care is left up to the families. So if we were looking at some, it would be some of those really old headstones. And I would like to just kind of clean some of them off with, basic clearing of moss and stuff, but it's just not a path that I think, talking with Jim, it would get costly, and Jeremy.
And again, I think the big point there is once we start cleaning headstones, then we're going to be expected to clean everybody's headstone. That's not-
Yeah. Yep.
It's time consuming to do it properly.
Yeah.
It is, and yeah, I did have a discussion, there was a family or someone who had been hired to look at some headstones to clean, and we did chat about it, because they initially used bleach, and I was like, please don't do that. That is not the proper material to use when cleaning them, so,
Oh, and it adds to that too. If we did it and messed something up, then we'd be responsible to fix it or replace it.
All right.
yeah,
Any questions from anybody?
We do have one more thing.
I had a question for Ed, if I could. The maintenance fund you're referring to, is that the reserve, cemetery reserve fund? There's a separate cemetery maintenance fund.
It's the maintenance.
It's made with the one that has $4,000 approximately, according to the last annual audit.
I thought it had more than that.
Or it might. There's all.
Send this down to Dave.
That's what, 21,000.
That's probably the one.
Yeah.
There's a cemetery maintenance expendable trust that is the
Yes.
one that you.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
and,
And
yeah,
I misread it, but according to what I read, that fund can be distributed by a vote of the selectmen, back to the trustees. Thank you.
are you saying that it can be, sorry, were you asking?
No, we can do that through the select board.
Okay, that's what I thought, yeah,
And if we put it in as part of the budget, it'll be approved at town meeting. We'll also approve it.
and then this next part is, so for flags, it's most appropriate to put it into patriotic purposes, cemeteries, so we have budgeted 4 flags, but also, and we did buy some this year, so I should have quite a few for next year, but also going around, another project that we started working on was looking at our veterans, the holders. Not all of them have holders, whether they just, it didn't happen to begin with, and then some of them have just, wear and tear, have been destroyed and need to get replaced, so starting to look at doing that piece by piece as well, because those do add up. So this year we bought flags from the Legion website. They were able to allow us to do that. So I'll see if I keep doing that. It didn't really hold up very well this year. So there was a lot of replacing, which means I'm using twice as many. But we'll keep plugging away at that.
It's, you have to find it by the number
4583.
4583.
Which was that?
Same question again. Any
You're looking
reason
at
750 was not spent?
Why, what
That's
wasn't?
not us.
The question for
seven-
Jim.
Yeah, that's a Jim question.
Patriotic purposes, facilities and streets.
Flags.
They were money budgeted and not spent.
We bought flags, but I don't think we coded them to that line. I think they went under some supplies for maybe parks and rec, so I'll have to double check that, because I know we did buy some this year.
We could transfer it if we need to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Please, Jim, your department does just everything.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
And we will be spending it next year. I want to make sure we have nice flags along the road.
Any questions? Land use and development? Or is there another one that you're looking at first?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Okay.
Evening, everybody.
We need to-
I start with 4191, which is planning. -01 and then -02 is zoning. All here is on one page for my department. Telephone, we've highlighted, first line there.
So I can talk about those two. The top two, telephone in most departments went down as we're working through changes in the departments. And then internet, I think overall went up a little bit, but you'll see things like Rob's department looks like it went up a ton. And what we did was we just reallocated percentages. So it's not that all of them are going up that much. You'll see a lot of them actually came down, and it's just how we're moving the money around within the budget.
Fortunately. Otherwise, pretty much very similar to last year's budget in my department. Obviously, we have a couple of lines there. You'll see they're lower than what they were budgeted for, because we were in some cost cutting work this year. Try to save some money towards for fall, so you'll see some of those professional development lines and travel and so forth that are under expended as we were instructed to do, so. I'll take any questions you guys have. I'm happy to answer anything.
Rob, the chalk line, you go from 84 for budget this year to 97. That's a 7.8% increase. Is it part of the survey and we're truing up?
Yeah, it's part of the compensation study. Rob's position was one of the ones that was down pretty far
Yeah.
from where it was, and we've also made a couple changes, probably prior to the compensation study, where he now oversees the building inspection part of the department. It's all one land use department now.
Yeah. And does this get him all the way there, or do we have to do more next year?
No, he's where he needs to be.
A little bit of my salary line is also for Chantel, who's our assistant that we share.
Yeah.
She gets a portion of her salary comes from my department.
I have to
We
say
share
that
her.
girl's worth her weight in gold.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
we share her
She is.
with Public Works and
She's
with
picking up
building.
payroll.
Yeah.
Me and her learned payroll this week.
It was tough too, because she just had a baby, so we lost her for 3 months, so sort of learned what it's like not to not.
She is one. She's actually spread through multiple salary lines in here. She does welfare, water, sewer, planning. So her salary's kind of chunked into all of those, but she's another one that we gave a pretty hefty increase to. She was really, really low.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get her up more comparable to the public safety administrator, Emily, and where the AP payroll clerk was, because they're all kind of very similar in duties, and hers was like
It's true.
$8 to $10 below the rest of them. So we're trying to get her out.
How often do we do these surveys, and are we doing them often enough so that we don't get into this situation again?
We need to, we talked about doing a rolling one. I haven't really started that yet because we haven't even caught up from the first one. So
Yeah.
I do think we need to do that. We participated in Sunapeas this year, so I'm gonna push pretty hard that we get some of that data back.
Mhm.
So we can kind of just do some of our own thing to make sure we're staying comparable, but.
Thank you.
And if you're giving a COLA, which you didn't always, find it shouldn't fall behind as much.
Yeah, it's hard. We need to watch that because, everybody across the state gives a COLA and most everybody gives a merit on top of the COLA. So just making sure we stay, I'm gonna say competitive. We don't need to be leading the charge by any means, but we need to make sure that we're not falling too far behind if we are watching it.
So most people notice, but this was the first time we did that. The compensation
This is the
study
first time we do.
Yeah.
ever,
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
so
I'm sorry, the compensation, the first time we've ever done what?
the compensation.
We've
study.
had compensation studies before.
Oh, really?
Yep.
It's been a while.
Rephrase. In all my years I've been on the budget committee, it's
When?
never
It
been
has been a
discussed.
while, but we
Yeah,
have
we
done
did
that.
this before.
Yeah, it's been a long
More than
time.
10 years ago?
Well, and then, possibly.
Then we were writing
8 or
the
9 years ago.
the benefit.
Yeah, within my time on the
Yeah.
select board.
9 years ago.
Repairs and service contracts. I'll let, Lisa, you wanna explain that? We did see some savings.
I can do it. I've been looking back at just what our actuals were and looking at that, and we went back and reviewed it, and it's really Rob's portion of the copier for down here, and so just looking at what we actually have been spending, I don't know what was being spent back in 22 when it said 891, which was closer to that 1,000, but we went back and looked, and the only service contracts he has is that fund, so.
We have
Move it down.
Simwest copier. We actually just got a new one, a new contract. And it's a great machine. Planning board and zoning board Appreciate all the copies.
They really have.
Best thing is it has a staple function. So when you do big runs of minutes or whatever, you can staple it. Very good. Any other questions on 4191?
Professional development, Yeah, I was just saying.
You had $700 and you didn't come close to spending it.
I put the kibosh on that. I told, when we had our extra $170,000 payment we had to make, I stopped training and travel as much as possible.
Okay.
That was one of the places, it's a small amount of money, but it's money. You know, as I told you guys earlier, I didn't want to stop projects and things we had planned going unless I absolutely had to. So we just started cutting all those little places that we could cut. So we did try to budget those back to the level so people can get back to training next year. But
So, Rob, what about, postage? I see in 2024, 500 was budgeted, but 614 was used and we're planning on 500, so.
It's gotta be the,
Postage for zoning.
yeah, and some of that I can speak to. I mean, yes, we budgeted that, but it also gets offset in the revenue side. It just really depends how many zoning things we have and what kind of mailers we have to have come out. So when it goes over there, we go over in revenue. Not that that's great on the expenditure side of the budget, but we try to budget what we actually think we're gonna use.
Both the planning board and the zoning board have recently, I say recently, within the last year or so, adjusted the postage that we charge for the notifications. The butters notices is what we do. We send the certified. So we're now charging $8 per. And, you know, the postage is all of $6 at least. And so we do, I don't know if you could say we make much because you're paying me and Chantel to do the work. It's certainly covering the cost a lot better than it used to.
Yeah.
We're not losing money on it, I guess.
That makes
That's the
sense.
important thing. Want to jump to building inspection,
4240.
4240, yep.
Yeah.
Just a quick update for you guys on that. Liam, who was our building inspector, left in approximately June. He went to Lebanon. He's now one of their building inspectors. We still communicate with him. Seems to be doing well there. We were sad to see him go. He was an excellent part of our team.
yeah,
We were lucky to find a great replacement. We hired a gentleman who was working for the city of Claremont named Vinnie Chersey, who's come on board and really hit the ground running with us. We're hearing good things from our customers, our clients, basically the people that are building. He seems to have, you know, obviously the right temperament, the right knowledge. He came in, you know, having worked in that field before, so he's doing great. He's very laid back, but he knows his stuff. And in fact, we were just having a great chat today about the property maintenance part of the code, which he's enlightening me on because that's something that's come up a lot in Claremont. And it's, you know, it's dilapidated properties. What can we do about it? Well, there is a New Hampshire code that specifically refers to maintenance of your property.
It's actually an international code.
It's an international code.
Property maintenance code.
Yep. So
Something we
Hampshire has
could
it
think
adopted.
about if we have more problems, but
the old
Yes.
mill,
we have a lot less problems than,
like the old mill.
no, it's people that are not taking care of their houses.
But we also have an ordinance on the books too, Ed, that doesn't really get enforced for that. And I know that's another whole conversation.
But that's.
What ordinance is that?
It's it was back, I can send you the copy because I found it. And it
Yeah.
was signed by all the selectmen.
Love to see it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we can
I
look
think
at it
like
and see if it has any
2006 or some
teeth,
such
really.
thing. It was, yeah, quite some time ago.
I mean, that's the thing with some of those, and I looked for it, I'll look again, but you know, some of them don't have much teeth to them.
would that cover things like people having chairs out in front of their
Yep.
house forever? With the free
I mean,
sign?
yeah, some of the free stuff we can get rid of, but you
Did
know,
we,
it gets into a fine line between storage around your house and junk and how you define that. And there is legal definitions of that. It gets pretty tricky.
Town, but there's another town in the Upper Valley that's having quite a problem with that right now.
Mhm.
It's Lime,
Lime, yes.
yes.
Yeah.
That's been going on for years, though.
They actually voted a special appropriation to try to clean up a specific property. It was like a couple 100,000. It's very controversial up there. There's,
Yeah.
people on both sides of the issue. Obviously, in this building inspection, similar narrative on telephone and internet. We've just basically done a little bit of reapportionment for those rates. You'll see that as the two highlighted lines. And as I said earlier, Chantel obviously also assists Vinnie with permit tracking and mailing and receiving payments and all that kind of stuff. So
So Chantel is in that personnel.
she is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the other thing to look at here, we're hoping it comes down next year, but the law books and references, we left at 2,500. We didn't spend all of it this year. But New Hampshire just adopted the new codes on all of those, so we're gonna have to buy a whole bunch of new books coming up next year. So that's why we left that in there.
Aren't they available online?
Some of them are, yes, but I've talked to the code enforcement person and he wants paper copies in his office, that it makes his job a lot easier, so.
Yeah, every inspector that I've ever worked with really wants the hard copies, because they can actually bring them on a site and walk around with a construction guy in a, dank basement and say,
And it's one of
there it
those,
is,
if you've ever read code books, it's this, and then it refers to a chapter way back here, and then a chapter over here, so you're doing a lot of flipping back and forth, and you know how it is to scroll through stuff online, it's not as easy as it sounds sometimes.
Yep.
And I'm a big proponent of online stuff. There's times when it doesn't work right.
Do you want to flip to the next one? So.
Which one is that?
So Vinnie is not only our building inspector, but he's also our health inspector. So there is a health personnel, just a health side of his budget. You wanna explain the contracted
So
service?
contracted services is community nursing. So that's paid for 100% by donations, but it goes in the health administration. And that's new. We had community nursing this year, but the way the contract works, we work this year and then get billed the year after, so. So we've actually paid nothing for the first full year of service that we've had.
So wait, I was not listening because I was trying to look for it.
Yeah.
What is the contracted services?
It's community nursing and it's been paid for 100% through donations,
Okay.
so.
And we're sharing it with Lebanon, so
We're contracting from Lebanon.
Okay.
Yeah, Lebanon hired another full-time nurse and we contracted 10 hours a week.
Right, but it's not costing the taxpayers anything at this point,
And it won't next year.
and it won't next year.
Or the year.
After that.
And then
How does it work?
There has been a tremendous amount of fundraising that's extremely successful for that program.
I think Dorothy Byrne has been very supportive too. right?
Extremes.
At this rate, you have at least 3 years covered.
Yeah, we have 3 years covered right now.
So what is it? How is it? The community nurse.
The resident can, or people that know the residents can, and then some of it is also healthcare driven, that someone comes home from the hospital and the hospital contacts and says, you may want to check up on me.
There will be something in our December newsletter. Read it.
And we have a website too, that you can go see.
Sort of like healthcare cavalry. They're out on, not horseback, but they're rolling around town to check on people. And it's something it's an idea that's really caught on, particularly here in the Upper Valley. Multiple communities are doing it, and it is a amazing thing that they're doing. It's literally like, has anybody checked on Joe? 90-year-old guy down the street. Community nurse, boom, right there.
Yeah.
Sometimes
they
they
are
One,
One or two.
they have 2 nurses, but one that's contracted to come here, not that they wouldn't tag team if needed, but there's one.
Sometimes it rattles people because they show up in the Lebanon fire car.
Yeah.
They go to my mother's. She was there today when I went, so.
It is that, we had a little,
What's going on? The fire car is there.
we had a little concern about that, but we are contracting with them to provide a service, so.
So Ed, I apologize. was flipping pages looking for the right one. So it's in the budget, but we get a grant or something.
There'll be revenue in the revenue side of the budget that offsets this, and then it's all fundraising money that has done it. So
There's tons of donations often. You
Yeah.
see them being approved by the select board or whatever.
Yeah,
like I said, this is the first year we're paying this bill, and we have 3 years worth of payments in the bank already.
thank you.
And there is a committee in the
Yeah.
town that's managing that. Emily is sort of our staff person. They just met last night. They were right before planning, so we had to wait for them to finish up. But again, heroic work, and I'm always impressed with that kind of stuff that's happening here in River Valley. So we look after our own. We do a lot to help people that need them, and I think that's something we should all be proud of, so.
What fraction,
When you have that kind of service, that they're also probably gonna have fewer ambulance calls and things
Yeah,
like that.
they've shown that in other places that the data for repeat ambulance calls and stuff goes down, which lowers costs.
what fraction of the building inspector's time do you think he's doing the health role?
It's hard to say. I would say,
About to go
a
up.
trend is that it's going up. And certainly there's more demand for health-related stuff for us. I think it's a sort of a side effect of the housing crisis that we're in. We've been looking on people that, that need health stuff, and it's garbage piling up in the yard, septic system that's failing, those kind of things are happening. And it
Septic
seems like
inspection
more
around
and
the
more
lake.
and more.
So, right, so
As we
my
get
point
older.
is, it sounds like he's fully budgeted under building and 0% under health. Should
Yeah,
that
I'm
be
not
split?
quite sure why,
Yeah.
we did it with mine. So I'm under planning board personnel, but not zoning. I mean, zoning is not a labor. We don't pay in the zoning budget for my salary.
No, I
There
think
was
it's because his position is building and health officer. I mean, we could put it here, but I don't know. We should have that discussion sometime of how granular we want to get tracking this. The more granular we get, the more work
Right,
it
and
is administratively.
Right, that's why I asked, because if the answer was 50-50, then I would be like, okay,
I don't think it's 50-50. I would say it's maybe 90-10.
right,
That's what it's probably at this point.
okay. Right,
I would almost rather see us take this when we get a new finance software and shove it into the building department as part of the cost.
don't fair.
I mean, it really depends how granular we want to get on being able to say, we spend this much on this, we spend this much on that.
I know what you mean, Ed, by granular. I think the other thing though that comes into play, I know people talk about is transparency. So
Yeah.
it gives people in general that are watching all of this stuff a better idea of, okay, what is this person really doing?
Yeah, we just have to have that discussion because every time you break it out to be more granular, then it takes more hours of administrative time and costs the taxpayers more to do it. So where's the balance?
That's why I asked it, 90-10. Okay.
Yeah, just-
30.
Just an FYI too, so the health officer is sort of a constitutional position of the state of New Hampshire. Each town has a health officer. And there's a health board, and that's the select board, it's the board of health for the town. So in specific projects, Vinnie may have to come and actually meet with the select board to talk about specific issues. But it's a partnership with the board, the board of health, board of select. Same.
Any other questions? Before we go
Final.
grill.
4651,
Oh, there's another one.
is economic development.
Keep them a moment to find the sheet.
Yep. 4651.
Next time I'll look at it over before I think I. I don't see it. It's not. Order. It's in the.
They're hard to find.
465.
Or you can look.
Is that the one that begins with public transportation?
Yeah, yep, that'd be the one.
I can find it. You have to look at the numbers.
01651.
About the middle.
Yeah, on the cemetery,
It's there.
patriotic purposes one finally.
The only one that was out of order in America was the building one.
Alien.
Yeah.
A number of things.
So Ed, you want to talk about the first line?
Yeah, I'll start with this one, public transportation, not just because of last year, but many, many towns do it this way, and I've been talking with Advanced Transit, and I thought it was important that we move our public transportation into the budget and not as a social service. So I've put this here, I have been working on them. And we're hopeful, very hopeful at this point that we're gonna be adding a few more bus routes. We're looking at adding one around noon time, which will make it easier for people to use the bus to go for doctor's appointments, those types of things. Because right now it goes early morning and you'd have to come back at like 3 p.m.
They've said that before, though. When
Yeah.
we were doing the master plan, they said they were gonna add routes that never happened.
Well,
But they
we're really
did-
close.
So
right
they
now.
did add.
They had over the weekend, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're looking at that, and I'm also talking to them about like a 7 and an 8 o'clock one. So if someone wanted to come in 5 o'clock and go to our restaurants and hopefully new brewery and that kind of stuff, they'd be able to get back to the Lebanon area in the evening. It's also nice if we want to go that way and come back and not have to drive. So we're looking at adding those two, but I also think it's a essential service of the town to make sure that we have good public transportation, or as good as we can have in a rural setting. So I am continuing, and I've talked to them about making sure that we get their financials and those things, because they're a nonprofit, that we can look and make sure things are being done right. But I'd like to move it out of the list of requested additions and put it actually in the budget.
So just so we can compare apples to apples, how much was it last year in that requested item?
I think it was 6,000 last year.
6,000, I thought it was 5,600.
Was it 5,600?
56 or 58, something like that.
Yeah,
That was a
that's right.
special warrant on it, right? Because we've,
Well, it's included in our list of
Regional. Well,
Regional.
Yeah,
last
we
year
voted
they were
no,
late,
because
so
it was
it's a
late.
separate order.
Right.
Correct.
so
Last
we
year they-
special warrant.
Exactly.
They didn't
You're
come
right.
in, so they went to town meeting instead,
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
because we need to treat people the same. If they don't submit it, we.
And how much was the last year?
How much was it, Joe?
It was, they request, see, it's not even on here because it never came in.
It's 56.
Yeah,
It might have
the year
been
before in
56.
twenty-three, they
We can definitely get
requested,
you that.
5,560. But last year, they were,
They were
they
like,
never, it never came in, we never even got the number. That was at,
So it's in the- it is in the town.
Hard to believe there are some towns that don't know anything. And it's, yeah. I'm not sure if they're still servicing.
It's called the Rebel Town.
Yeah.
So Ed, my only question about that is, I mean, sort of like, yeah, I get it, I understand it, and transportation is important, but when those things are in the list of regionals, there's no total guarantee that they're gonna get monies from the town. But once this is in the budget like this will be a guaranteed money to them, correct?
Well, it would be if we put them in the regionals in the budget as well.
if they
Well-
submit.
Right, but not always. Nancy, I'm asking Ed, thank
Yeah.
you. But always in years past, when they submitted, I mean, and I was on the regionals once with Shirley, we didn't always necessarily approve exactly what they had asked for. So that's why I'm just saying that if it's put in the budget, it's gonna be a guaranteed money, right?
Well, it'll be, yeah, what we decide we want to put in the budget. It's very similar, but it's another reason why I think it's as important to put it there, because it's a critical service of the town.
once we approve the regionals and bring it to this board and it's in the budget and it gets approved at that level.
This
You know that,
year,
right?
they requested, for this year, they requested 5,275.
This year?
This year?
Yep. 225
Okay,
request.
last
So we
year,
gave them, they're getting more than requested.
last year, the article was for $5,725.
I can look at that. He requested through me 6,000, so. But I think adding a couple routes is worth a few $100.
Is Advanced Transit
Yeah,
for profit or
I
non-profit?
think it's-
No.
Non-profit, and there's no cost to ride the bus.
And we do have representation on their board.
Really?
Jim is actually a board member for them.
Yeah, it is, it's a tremendous deal because they are, do a great job getting grants, federal grants. And it's probably the best run board I've ever been on. They don't waste our time. They're very good about, getting money in, and so for this,
The hospital contributes a lot, don't they?
yes, they do, yeah.
They advertise, psychotherapy.
There's a lot of, individual businesses that this is an important piece of. And, for us to write that check right there and for what we get for it, which is essentially, service 5-6 times a day, all year round, that no one has to pay to ride is pretty amazing. So, I'm definitely in favor of the 6,000 or even more. It's still a tremendous bargain.
We actually,
Canaan does contribute,
Oh,
but Canaan does not contribute easily. They have to go through the warrant process every single year there, which includes they have to go to the transfer station and get signatures and, it's a big thing. And I hope I hope Enfield does not follow that footsteps. I mean, I felt bad the guy had to wait 6 hours to present his thing last year, but I mean, it was their thing. They were reminded, didn't get it in on time.
he was reminded
That was-
several times.
That was his penance.
It was his pen.
Yeah.
You got one in this year.
You learned a lot about Enfield. I'll tell you that.
no,
What is the
actually,
percentage?
calculated the amount of people that they serve. It averages only about 4 or 5 a day, 4 or 5 people a day here. at Enfield To take it, but with more runs, more people may use it. Because sometimes if you take it in the morning, you can't get back, to later in the day, so you wouldn't use it.
Yeah, a lot of Mascoma, high school students who are involved in sports will take it and ride it from, the Mascoma High School to downtown Enfield and get dropped off so they can go home. And so, that
I'll get
that
back to you.
happens, and some of the kids, run into town for theater or whatever else they like to do, so.
So they must miscalculated how many people they serve.
Well, it's more than 4 or 5 a day.
No, it isn't.
I've seen more
figured
than
it out.
4 or 5 a
can
day
get the
getting
exact
on in the
record.
morning.
Yeah, they do a good job.
It was 1,341 people, they said. And if you calculate that by days in a year, you'll come up with,
You don't have to weekend service though, you have to.
no, I figured on that too.
Okay.
So what percent of the ridership budget and expenses for the routes that go through Enfield are we looking at?
I'd have to ask them that, but
I don't understand.
my guess is it's probably in the 3 to 5% range is what our contribution is.
Okay, and how about ridership?
If her numbers are right, that's $3 a head.
Yeah. Per capita or,
Yeah, if Shirley's numbers are correct.
I didn't bring.
It's
my
$3
packet
per
with me
person.
today. I don't have my packet with me, but it's right in the packet.
Short story, it's a good value.
Yeah, it's a good value, and if we can add,
It's important for economic development.
and if we can add a couple routes, it starts to become a lot more feasible.
And there are some, I know kids at the high school, when I was there, they're disabled, they're never gonna have a license. And so they would pair them up with an aide and train them how to use the bus, like where to get off to, and for some of those kids, it was a lot of times before they could do it independently. So they put them on the bus, then they go to Lebanon, wait for them to come in, say, now you're getting off, type of thing. And that allows those people not to be in a facility that's still gonna cost us, because they get some independence.
So we wrap up here, only other thing we had on there is our Citizens Academy, which is an idea that's been bounced around quite some time. I think Ed and I are sort of zeroing in on that, to be a way to help people get to know their town. It's a concept that Lebanon is actually employing and a few other communities in the Upper Valley, where people can sign up and basically learn all about what their local government does. Kind of in a sort of,
It'll be in that 10 classes range, and we'll have each department come in and just kind of show what we do on a day-to-day basis. Hopefully get, not all classroom, but get out and see what snowplow drivers get to do. And
I had a friend in Lebanon who just attended the Citizens Academy in Lebanon, and I mean, they really do a pretty in-depth
Yeah,
process.
and we're looking to kind of replicate that here on, obviously on a smaller scale, it's not as big as Lebanon, but it sort of becomes like almost like a farm system. I say farm system with the baseball analogy, farm club kind of training people for future board service. To try to get people an entry point into community service with their town here. That's what we're sort of hoping to do. And maybe use that as recruitment for future board members on different committees, commissions and all that kind of stuff. And so,
Rob, I have just one question. The public information, 500 was budgeted and only 20 was used, and budgeting 250. I'm just wondering, like, what sort of things?
so that is another one that we decided just to try to save some money this year because we were in a bit of a unique situation. Previously, we spent $500 2 years ago on the photography. I hired a local woman who has an aerial photography business. And she did all the aerial photography that we've been using now for our website, for our master plan. There's some absolutely gorgeous photos. If you've seen those aerial shots, that was taken, I think, early autumn of 23. And they're gorgeous pictures. And so that was kind of an example of the kind of stuff that we can use that money for. Obviously, use it or lose it, but this year is obviously extenuating circumstances. We were trying to, wherever we could, save some money, so don't.
We've done that. We've been talking about building either a little notebook or a trifold or something that has some data, water rates, those types of things that are really easy when we're talking to developers to get them some information and things that they're looking for to help in economic development.
Any other questions? Thank you. Tracy.
On this budget, I didn't know if this was the opportunity for Ed to speak about the cable access channel since it's listed on this page as unbudgeted.
Tracy?
Oh,
I'm
that's the.
sorry, did I jump ahead? I jumped
You
ahead.
did.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
We'll talk about
I
it.
jumped
We
ahead,
should.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. I have it right here.
Seats next to one, Jen.
One night.
All right, I'm gonna start on 4194, which is the buildings budget. And the first one I'm gonna pass off to Ed. That's typically the Whitney Hall Maintenance Fund. But this year there's gonna be more in there because of moving the office and or furniture and that sort of thing. I expect that the maintenance piece will probably be smaller than usual because it's a new building. It won't require a lot of that.
Yeah, and some of that, actually a big chunk of that is looking at, we're building select board chambers in the upstairs theater area, and we're gonna need to get public seats and tables and all the things that go along with that, some audio visual equipment. So I did put some money in there for that. As we come to the end of the Whitney Hall project and we have maybe some money left, I don't know if we will, we might be able to reduce that a little bit, but I put a little bit of money in there to help us outfit that as a meeting room. Then moving expenses back and stuff, like you said, that's, about $10,000 to get the moving company to move everything.
Was out of order.
Yeah, it's toward the back.
4194 was accidentally out of order. It came after the 4651. Everything else should be in order.
These should be page numbers.
I know. Alyssa, is there no chance at all of getting page numbers on this stuff?
I'd have to do it manually.
And I'd gladly come down and volunteer the time and put the numbers, no, honestly, and put numbers on the first copy and then.
Well, that would be every time we download it.
Yes, and ideally, I would have more time, but I was, last minute struggling to get it done at all. Okay, I think that's it.
Okay, great. So, jumping down, contracted services. This year, it's looking like it's a little bit higher. And the reason for that is we've switched the generator, maintenance contract into this line instead of having it in 5 different building lines. And our goal is to try to bid this out to a company. We were not super happy with the work done this year, especially, I'll tell you a quick little story. Out here, we have a big generator that runs this building. The guy came to service it and he couldn't get the thing to start. And it was not getting power to the motherboard. So he said, oh, it looks like it needs a new motherboard. So off he went and we got a quote for $8,500 for a motherboard. Well, thankfully, we have a gentleman that lives in town here that's on the fire department and has a electric business. His name is Josh Wessel. And he said, Josh, can you just take a look at that? I just don't think this guy was right. And he spent 15, 20 minutes out here with our mechanic and he found a $5 fuse, put it in, off the thing goes. So that guy saved us $8,500. And that's, using a local guy that pays taxes in town and he's, sort of vested in helping us and we appreciate that a lot. The electric has dropped a little bit. We put it in as pretty much the same. Again, I don't know exactly where we are with the bills because
I raised this a little bit. Electric prices have come down,
yeah,
but the 2 new buildings we're thinking of adding are 100% electric. So, the heating bills and stuff will shift to electric. So, I mean, you're gonna see a few lines here, electric, heating oil,
and
propane,
propane would be,
and we're kind of crap shooting at where we're gonna be. But, trying to make our best educated guess at this point. You'll see heating oil drops way down about half. And then I don't see propane would,
Relax.
yeah.
Yep.
So we went up a little bit on that. We do need to fill the 1,000 gallon tanks that are at the public safety building once they get done using what they're using for winter.
and we went down a little bit on heating oil because, again, Whitney Hall was heating oil and now
It's a
it's
lot
not
of
gonna
heating
be.
oil.
It was a lot of heating. That's right.
So the $14,000 difference is Whitney Hall?
Pretty much, I think.
So
We'll have a little bit of heating oil. Is the police station heating oil?
It is, yeah,
Their boiler?
yeah. And until we figure out what we're gonna do with those 3 vacated buildings, we have to carry them, obviously.
Yeah.
And, so we'll have it actually an extra building on the fuel. Energy committee, that's highlighted. It's gone down a little bit. I don't know exactly where they're at. Is that
They requested $2,000 again after looking at what they've been expending and stuff. I did let them know, but I pulled their budget down by $500. They did say they're planning on doing a project this next year, and I told them, get you guys some numbers, and we have not seen any yet, so.
and then, rest of them are pretty close to what we'd been asked in the past. We left a little bit of money in for the Shed Street DPW garages because there may be some expenses associated with the sale and there's some ongoing monitoring.
Yeah, the DES wanted us to do some ongoing monitoring, and I don't know if they're gonna try to make us do anything from that. So I wanted to leave a little bit of money in there, but we don't need anything like we've been doing in the past. So
So Ed, I guess I can't wrap my head around that. If we sold the property, why are we the ones having to do?
we haven't sold it.
Oh, we haven't?
We've approved entering into a contract to sell it,
Okay.
so.
Is there a closing date?
No, the contract was based on them getting all their permits and things that they need, and there's a lot of legal stuff that goes into selling this. It'll probably be later into next year sometime. It actually changes hands if all the permitting, and we have to provide them a clean bill of health on this, which we have not gotten yet, because DES wants some extra permitting and extra sampling.
Any questions on 4194?
So just one crazy question, Jim. The chemical toilet rental.
Yep.
Where is that? I mean, is that the rental?
We rent
Lakeside?
7 different units for 6 different locations. So It's Rec Park, Boat Launch, Lakeside Park, Hughes Park, and the transfer station.
So are any of those expenses, is there a revenue side that covers any of that?
A little bit,
The Lakeside Park
the Lakeside Park, the rail trail and
and
the
the sailing club.
sailing club pay into some of that.
Okay.
But the rest,
There's one in Bristol.
That's right, they provide them, that's their responsibility. 4199,
I have one question.
yeah,
On
sure.
reservoirs and dams, keep hearing about, you know, we've got some dams we're gonna have to address.
we pulled them off the CIP. We're gonna be doing an engineering look through CIP funds at them to get us a true date and condition of all of them.
Okay.
Not that they couldn't use some work, but I don't think any of them truly need to be replaced anytime real soon. But we're gonna have it.
George Pond one we were saying.
We keep putting it
Yeah,
on
and
there.
that's only because it's built into the bridge, it's a piece of the bridge,
Yeah.
and so when we replace the bridge, there'll have to be some dam work at that time. And then this line item is to pay taxes, there's a dam tax, the state charges on George Pond and, Enfield
Okay,
Reservoir.
Go no damn.
Yeah,
Like that will not go away even if you repair it,
No.
right?
No.
It stays there.
And I even think, we talked about it for a while, that the George Pond one's considered a high hazard dam, so we pay a little more for that. But I think if it was brand new, it would be considered a high hazard dam because if it breaches, there's a big flood impact. And that's why it's a high hazard dam.
But the George Pond isn't that deep, is it?
No.
We can breach that dam.
but it's,
It's more-
yeah, it's over 300 acres, so
But
it's
it,
almost as big as Crystal Lake, in
Right.
terms of land.
but it's a small creek, so the houses that are up in that little creek.
There's a lot of slope.
Oh, all down.
I'm convinced.
That works out somewhere.
So hydrant maintenance, this is at $5,000. This is an unresolved thing. The reason for this, it really should be, phrased a little bit differently. It's intended for the non-district users who use fire hydrants to sort of be made whole. And so typically, most towns, they charge the town, like the water district will charge the town like $100 per fire hydrant or something along those, or there's some small amount. It's been 5,000 for a number of years. We have 7,400 in it, and it actually got paid one year, and that was when Jack was here, and he thought it should be $100 per, and so we have about 74 to 76 hydrants, so that's what that number was for. So I don't know how we want to resolve that, but
Let's use this number
use
this
it for
year,
this year. Yeah,
and we should look at what our actual hydrant maintenance costs are and come up with something that
yeah.
an average.
But again, it's not really the maintenance, it's more the fact that the sort of non-district people can use a fire hydrant if they have a fire in it. So it's available for others beyond those. And so the folks that pay their water fees are sort of supplementing the rest of the town in that respect.
It easily be made online.
Yes, yeah.
And I remember being on that committee for, water sewer when we were studying that.
Mhm.
And because we have so few users, and obviously now it's really high, that it's unfair that somebody goes to the town hall and flushes the toilet 20 times and the users on the system pay it. So there should be a way to get a fair allocation, which we did work on at that time. And
It makes sense here, and we should do that work to figure out what the right amount. In Claremont, we actually took it the other way and got it off the hook because 90-something% of the city was on the water system. So it didn't make sense yes, there's a few people that know,
but also the town wise,
That's right.
when you have the water system with hydrants, you
Absolutely.
get a cheaper rate. you know,
Economic development, all those things. make it
right,
better.
so, you know, it shouldn't
So this
be
is
the 200
essentially-
users.
So to paraphrase, is this a fee the town would pay to the water district for the availability of the hydrants for firefighting purposes?
Yeah, or any use that the hydrants are used for.
Any
it on your
of the hydrants?
Yeah,
Okay,
so we'll take a look at that a little harder.
And it also affects affordable housing, yeah, because if you're a landlord renting apartments and you're paying that higher rate, your rents are gonna be higher. And with the additional fees that we've been paying, it affects the rents a lot,
we
not
have
just.
that many hydrants?
74 to 76.
Yeah.
What he just said.
How come we don't have?
Is this fund eligible for the municipal facilities fund? Which has about $14,000 in it according to the last.
We shouldn't use any reserve funds for this, because this is an every year expense.
The title of that fund is Municipal Facilities Maintenance and Equipment.
Yeah, but
That's not what.
it still shouldn't be used for that.
Another one to retire.
Well, the title is not as important as the purpose that was named.
Maintain.
Hey, Jim, how come we don't have anything spent so far this year?
It gets transferred at the end of the
End of
year,
the year, yeah, a lot of these things happen at the
Okay. And what's
Last
our
minute.
estimate for what's gonna be transferred?
$7,400.
We think it'll be spot.
We just transfer the whole amount. Yeah, that's,
So if we only put 1,000 for next year, we'd only have to transfer 1,000.
yeah, but it wouldn't be fair to the water system. If we put 10,000, we transfer 10.
Nice
So-
try, Dan.
And so the $100 per hydrant is supposed to cover its use? Or,
The availability of it. You know, technically, the use for the hydrant or the maintenance would be the maintenance of the whole system that
Right.
provides water to the hydrants.
so like when somebody, say there's a fire, right? Fire trucks pull up, they use the hydrants, they go to put out somebody's fire. The town still pays for the water, right?
Yeah, technically we do.
No, because those go
We
to
don't
water
meter
meters.
it, but we're paying to produce it.
Well,
The town,
Well,
water
the
users are
users
right.
are paying.
Oh,
difference,
no.
Not
Yes.
not
That's
necessarily.
true. The
Users.
people on the system pay to use it.
right, because they pay they event, and their rates are the cost for doing the pumping of the water.
Right, so the people outside of the water system that use the hydrant are through this are sort of paying back the users who paid to have it available.
Oh,
So,
no.
so the water that's,
sense.
yeah, so the water that's, on the truck sitting in the station down on Unions, that's water system water. So if they jump in and go up to your house and put out your fire, the users of the water system are paying for
For the
your.
water that is used to put out my fire.
Tanker after.
right,
Yeah.
Called community.
And
Yeah.
you have
So-
to flush all
so
the
then-
hoses and all that.
Right, so then in that, from that point of view, shouldn't this be a line item on the fire department?
It's more than just that, those just. one
Right, but
example.
that sounds like it's mostly, like, what else do we use it for?
It could be. If we get new finance software and do our chart of accounts, maybe we'll move it there. Maybe that's where you guys want it. But
Yeah,
it's just gonna be moving the shell, that's all.
I know, but it's just like you said, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not really hydrant maintenance, it's for use of water by non-water district people.
But it's also all the public buildings and everything, and the water use in there as well. which are-
Is it?
Well, actually.
it's also
The
other
water-
federal
the
government.
water that we use at
No.
City Hall is billed to it's metered. The town is billed and we pay the
We're
water.
a user.
that's right. So
Yes,
that's kind of,
that's different.
In the community.
And that is paid for out of the building line,
Right, yes.
4194.
It also makes sense to be under other general government, because it's just
Okay.
our catch-all for
Yes,
extra
that's fair.
payment. This is the point I can talk about Tracy's. We should probably have the cable access channel in before we're all done, but, we've been having discussions about the cable access payments. I can let Tracy talk more. He's been spying on them for me, but, there's really nothing been on that channel all year long. And I did the research on the cable franchise fee and it technically does not. It has nothing to do with the public access channel legally. It's just something that we've done. I don't know the history of how it came about. I've heard different stories from different people, so. Really, what we're looking at is doing this is. Not paying for the public access channel is what I'm asking. Some of this money I moved into the Whitney Hall Fund to set up. The PowerPoint projector we're looking at getting and the cameras and things to be able to stream our meetings to the public. And I've had a slight conversation with Eric Russell and Tracy a little bit about diverting some of this money in the future into being able to get more of our meetings out there, buy some more of these meeting owls for the different meeting rooms, those types of things to, in a sense, provide more of our own public access through our YouTube channel.
So you're saying the public access channel hasn't really posted anything?
The public access channel is still photography
Yeah,
of loons,
right.
and the lake and a few places around town. Nothing live,
Yeah,
a few pre-recorded items like chair yoga.
yeah,
It is no longer a technology that, and I still subscribe to Comcast, so I get it, even though I don't want it.
right.
It is no longer a technology that's communicating anything to the public the way that our town meetings used to be communicated. They no longer show any of those.
Right.
So now our town meetings are available through the town website, through the owl. And moving up that level of communication is the way to go. We'll actually improve communicating with the public far better through the use of current technology as opposed to the public access channel, which frankly was good technology when it was established 20 years ago, but is no longer truly current.
And then the franchise fee is actually a fee through the cable channel for them to have a franchise in our town. Doesn't have anything to do with the public access channel.
Comcast have been collecting $60,000 per year from the users, of which $30,000 has been going into the general fund and $30,000 has been going back to the public access channel for their operation.
That is dropping,
It is dropping.
so we're getting closer to the $50,000 mark now. As people get rid of, they cut the cable and
Cutting the
stop
cord.
paying it. So that's gonna slowly dwindle down to nothing over time.
We used to get
60
easily
60,000.
50,000 a quarter, and it's down to 12.
Okay.
And the local staffing is no longer evident.
Right.
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 So I did talk with them and they wanted to come in and talk to you guys and try to keep it, but we can schedule that during the budget review times.
Do you think we need to do that?
I think it would be worth giving them the opportunity to come speak, but ultimately
And then we know.
your guys is the
Yeah.
decision and true.
So
It's a
how
done
much of
deal.
the, how much of the
Don't waste your
30,000
time.
have you put into the Whitney Hall? All of it?
Right now, I took it out of here and that's the big thing. And that was in my mind, if we're gonna use it for bolstering meeting communications equipment, that's where I didn't put any other money in the budget for there. So yes, I would say that's where I've put it this year, but I think after we get that done, we should have discussions about where we think we can increase our technology to better stream meetings and get information out to the public.
Right now it's YouTube, right?
Yeah, we stream our meetings, we post them on our website, we push them out on YouTube
And Facebook,
and Facebook.
we have a link there.
This is just my opinion, but I feel that using some of it, but I feel no need to use all of it. That can happen over a year or two. And if you're trying to trim your budget, that's a place I would pick. Because I also think there's a limited number of people accessing that. So is it, worth doing it all at once? If there's economy of scale, I get that, but I would go far less than that.
You have
Like
any
maybe half
idea
that.
how many?
But does that actually save us money if we don't use it?
That's,
Lowers the budget.
It'll lower the budget a little, but
Right.
Well,
What she's saying is don't use $30,000 to outfit meeting rooms. Use 15.
Something like that.
Well, I can tell you it's gonna cost more than 30 to do the one upstairs in Whitney Hall, if you want it
If
to
you're
work.
gonna do it right.
Oh, I was always under the impression that the money from Comcast was sort of free money.
And he's confirming that's correct, but that free money.
That is correct.
That free
Yeah.
money is paid for by every Comcast
Right.
subscriber in Enfield.
But why, if it's coming in, we should use it.
But is it coming in if we're getting
It's
charged
revenue.
30,000 or 17,500?
No, it's
Or
coming
is
in.
it going out?
It's coming in when you,
It's
when
coming
you make
in
this zero.
regardless of whether we expend it
It's
anywhere or not.
Yeah,
Free money.
this seems like
It's revenue
craziness.
to us.
I would highly recommend we look at that in the future. I don't know that we need to spend the whole 30 every year on that. We're not gonna have enough to spend it, but
Right. Use it for
Whitney
something
Hall's gonna
useful.
cost at least 60,000 for the technology to go in there.
But you already have that budgeted in other areas, right?
No,
You do not.
I have it in this budget in the Whitney
Okay.
Hall line along with some furniture and stuff, but.
What
Right.
he did,
If
Well,
not,
Whitney Hall
not-
maintenance.
he took this
We're not gonna
30
Yeah, I put it there.
In
and
there.
moved it over there.
Got it.
And an easy way to
Plus,
determine if anybody's actually watching Channel 8, since they do broadcast, let them put up a little note that says, send a note to Channel 8 if you're
Please
actually
call.
watching. They have their own ability to have all their participants vote if they really want it.
I don't think that's necessary. If you tell me that the only thing on there is static.
Well, not static,
It's
but
not
just
static,
No.
but it's pictures
Yeah,
of
they
balloons.
do.
It used to be the meetings, but they don't do that anymore.
But we get
We do
paid
it
whether anyone
ourselves.
watches it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's
It's
not
on
worry
the,
about it.
it's on your Comcast bill every single month.
Fine.
How much is it?
It's 4% of your bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We couldn't charge 5.
There's so many things added to that, the bill.
You don't want it.
Definitely something to test.
That's exciting.
Right, I'll move on to 4311, which is the highway admin. Yes. Not a lot of changes here. The contracted services, 4311.
2 pages of like.
Right.
Can I just ask a quick question
Sure.
before we get too far down? What sort of things are included in contracted services for DPW?
So, yeah, I was gonna start with that one, and that is, right at the moment, the reason we're over is that we've been miscoding the parts washer. We have a parts washer out here, and 3 of the 4 payments that we've made have gone on this line when they really should go on the actual 4312 line, which is the actual sort of the operations. And then the other piece of that is our share of the copier. The one that has probably the biggest increase is the telephone and communications. You did hear earlier about the internet and telephone communications, but this one has that component in it. But then we've also put in for the replacement of 4 truck radios. We have got some radios that are probably 25 years old and they're just not working properly. And we need to kind of start doing, 3 or 4 a year until we catch back up again. Typically, when we get a new truck, we get a new radio with it. That happens, but then, there's a lot of trucks in the fleet that have been here a long time and they have the same radio that they've always had. And then, the smaller machines and the actual construction equipment, the loader, the grader, and those have been here for, 20, 25 years and the radios they're just worn out. So we're hoping to do that. I don't know if there's any grants available for that, but that's certainly something we would look at. I know the police and fire have a lot of grants, and if they could qualify for a grant, I think their hand-me-downs would be a lot better than what we're running. So that's another option because they do share the frequencies. So, and then at the bottom, you'll see that we've got 1,900 in for professional development. We had 2 lines before, one for admin, one for the non-admin personnel, but we've just made one line this year. And works out to it's about $100 for a class. We try to do 2 classes per employee per year. We're underspent this year because of the sort of the freeze on the budget that was had, but that's where we're at on the professional development. We've got a few new people that are coming in that need some. We try to have them. The very basics are, we want flagging class and chainsaw class. Those are the starters, and then we take advantage of the Technology Transfer Center at UNH, and Primex sometimes has some courses. And then we have on occasion, we've hired someone to come or gotten someone to come for free to do an actual class here at the shop. And the most recent one we did was on cranes and rigging, and that one was a really, really good class for the guys.
And I will say that Jim's done a really good job of hosting classes, and when we host classes, it gets us free seats for our people. So he's done a really good job of doing that.
Yeah, and they do like coming here. We have a big parking area, which is nice. We have this set up here, the owl, we have, the board, the screen, the bathrooms, and then there's quite a few, restaurants nearby, because a lot of them will provide a lunch, and there's quite a few different choices here. So yeah, we're gonna continue to do that. On to 4312, which is kind of the highway operations budget. Not a lot of changes till we get down to the signs and markings. And that's one that's been increasing. It's getting more costly to have them come and paint the line stripes that we do. We also probably would like to ramp this up over the years as it's the more that we can do, the better. Obviously, if we did all the pavement, it would probably be, 4 or 5 times what we put in the budget. We try to do the busiest roads, but we're not doing fog lines. I mean, Lock Haven Road and a couple others might qualify to have fog lines at some point. But it is getting, increasingly expensive. We've looked at possibly piggybacking. I think Hanover has a line striping machine. I don't know if they rent that to us or, send an operator over there, but we're exploring that.
I thought we had one, Jim.
We have a hand unit, but we're not gonna do 10 miles.
Oh, no, I thought it was something different than
Yeah,
that.
no, we do the crosswalks and the most of the parking lot stripes with that.
We have been, but we haven't been able to put anything solid together. Like you said, we've been looking at maybe partnering a few towns with Hanover to get it done. We've been looking with Lebanon about maybe we can combine contracts and get a better price. So we're looking at some of that, but it's not as easy as it sounds like.
Who comes in and does this striping?
It's usually bigger companies.
Yeah, industrial traffic lines, they're out of southern New Hampshire. They come with a whole crew. They got a chaser truck and
Right.
the cone truck and everything else.
Hey, Jim, so go ahead, Cheryl.
Okay, thank you. Do you expect to use more salt or it's gonna be more expensive?
I expect we'll use more salt than we did last year. Last year was a fairly light winter, so we lucked out.
We did have a cost increase too.
Yeah, it was not a lot more money, but we try to budget, what the salt cost is, and we try to budget for about 1,500 tons, which is, it's not Armageddon, but it's close to the worst case scenario, but boy, if you try to guess and you end up low, you would be way over what we would allocate. And sometimes in the last few years, if we had a light season, we would, stock up at the end of the year. So we had a little bit more. So you have kind of like a little strategic reserve, if you will, that you can use if you have a really bad winter, and then you can kind of replace it on the lighter winters.
Well, and I think it's important on this one to look at the actual, so it's not way over what's actually been being used, and with the cost increase this year.
Mhm.
Pretty good chance that could go up. I have asked them in this line not to do the strategic bump this year.
Right.
We're trying to keep the budget down to make sure that we make budget with that extra payment. So we will be looking at that closer to the end of December. If we're gonna make it, we may bring a little bit on, but
Yeah, and we do have some out there, so we're not like, starting from zero. We're not gonna have salt if we need it, which is good.
Hey, Jim, two questions for you on the
Sure.
top line. So why do we have a 20% increase in contracted services for next year, number one? And then number two, if you look at the drop from 23 to 24, what did we not contract for? How did-
So the lion's share of that contract, that is for the invasive species project.
Next year is the invasive. species.
Well, the original one was, they did the inventory, so that was the bigger amount.
Okay,
And then, the stuff that they've been using they've been spraying.
The $10,000 for contracted spraying.
Yeah.
And that's moving forward. And then you added a little something, 2,000.
Right, that's gonna be the parts washer, and I think we also pay, for the acetylene torch bottles, we rent those too.
So 10,000 of that 12 is for invasive species spraying.
okay, invasive species on the land?
Non-native invasive, Japanese
Lakes.
knotweed and stuff.
Okay.
On
Gotcha.
town road.
Town-owned
and
properties.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then, could you just give me a little color? What happened from 23 to 24? What did we stop contracting for? That we had that big drop?
That was the non-native invasive species contract to build the plan. So we had a consultant in doing that, and then we dropped down to
Okay.
just doing the maintenance that the plan recommended we do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I think this year they did, was it one spray?
No, he was here
He was here
multiple
twice.
times through the summer.
Okay, yeah,
4 or 5 times. He did stuff around Lakeside Park. He did a lot around Hughes Park and Whitney Hall along the bank there.
Yeah.
He did
Did some here.
around the pond on Union Street.
Yep.
Did some here.
yeah, a little bit here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if at some point we detected invasive species in our lakes, do we have money in the town budget to address those?
We don't right now.
This
No.
time, that's what we're saving.
That's what,
That's what the Lake Association has.
thinking if we're using town money to pay for the land, should we use town money to pay for the lakes too?
But they're not town.
They're not
town
We would get grants.
All right.
There'd be grants available. Hopefully it never happens.
Not that we couldn't make that decision, but yeah, this is town-owned land that we're doing down spraying.
The town does help with the water, they put some towards the water quality monitoring.
Monitoring, right, yeah. Yeah, I've done that for a lot of years.
Yes.
Thank you.
Vegetative management special projects were underspent here. We would have spent more, but again, with the budget situation, we kind of put the hold on that. And typically we use this money to do very highly technical tree removals. And, the guys were out looking at trees today and unfortunately, I think we found 60 that need to be, they're dead. Was it, Jeremy had the 4 Ds, dead, dying, diseased, dangerous. So, and, so there's a lot of those we can do, but when you start getting around power lines, you know, sometimes the power company will take care of them and step up, but a lot of times they won't. So, you know, if that's the case, we try to hire somebody because there's a couple of operators here in town that have got the certification to work around power lines. And so we usually work with them. You know, they'll send the technical guy with the bucket truck and that to get the stuff on the ground. Once it's on the ground, you know, then it's our job to get rid of it. And we're, you know, actually more capable of getting rid of stuff than they are because we have, you know, our equipment's, you know, bigger and heavier and so forth. So,
And some people travel around picking it up, don't they? But
yes, yeah. In fact, the stuff that's cut, you have to offer it to the property owners first because technically those are their trees and they're welcome to the wood if they wish, or they can give it to somebody else. But we don't want it left in the ditch. Right.
So when you said 60 trees, you just mean trees along the roads of the town that are at risk of coming down
In the road,
storms.
correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or on the power lines.
yeah. On the power lines next to the
Yeah,
road.
power companies won't touch it if it's more than 15 feet away from the line.
That's right, yeah. And they don't want us touching it if it's
15
less than,
feet. That's pretty close.
yeah. They don't want us touching it if it's
I tried.
closer than 20 feet. It's our,
But if you don't take care of the
Buffer.
trees, it does cause outages.
So
They were aggressive in Shaker Hill.
Yeah, they were on my road too and took down a bunch of that dangerous dying.
It's down perfectly. That's right.
So I'll move on. Does anybody have any questions on highway? Okay, I'll move on to street lighting. Street lighting is kind of throwing a dart at the board.
Let me shake your bullet.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, 4316.
On my side.
So it had appeared to me that it was gonna be less. I reduced it by a certain amount. It's, you know, this doesn't follow the rates necessarily, because the way they bill those is it's so much per month, per however watt fixture it is. And so I guess once a year, they realign them, and so I think we have 240 or 50 streetlights here in town. And 35,000 is what I think it is going to be. But again, if we get to the end of the year and it looks like we're not gonna hit 30,000, we'll probably put it at 30,000. Cut that out, you know, kind of late. Because again, I don't know, sometimes this billing lags too, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
If you want a long speech, you can talk to
Yeah,
Lisa about Liberty.
about electric bills. It's a nightmare.
Heartburn.
It's at least a day a month.
So I'll jump to solid waste, 4321. Really, this is pretty close to last year. The one that's up is telephone and communications. And I'm assuming that's a landline issue. I don't know exactly. One of you added some late.
So what's up with the personnel line? Why was there a budget of 0, an actual of 21 and a budget?
It was it's moved down to the part-time, if you look at that.
It was actually
Ah,
put into the wrong line in
Yeah, originally.
2024. Should have
Got
been under part-time.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You have to look at telephone and communications. I know I went through all of the bills and just calculated those out. So
Yeah, that's an old fashioned landline.
it
So-
is.
And those costs are going down.
And they are, yeah.
There's actually a webinar coming up that I might sit in that talks about how cell service is starting to get cheaper than those, and
So
Well, and you know, if that's the case, I mean, I would look at possibly, you know, getting rid of that and getting an internet drop there.
Boy's son.
Cause I know the guys down there use their cell phones to call me more than they use the.
we should talk about it.
Yeah, right.
They might do that for free for us.
is there a point keeping the overtime since it hasn't been used this year, hasn't been used last year, and 3 years ago was only $500?
We try not to use that, but I think we need to keep some in it.
Yeah,
All it takes is one of our guys leaving, not working here or something, and then we have to backfill it with overtime every single time it's open pretty much.
Okay.
Or at least on the weekends.
So can we reduce it?
Like 1,500.
Well, I was thinking less than that
That's
since,
not 1,000.
yeah, about. Because if a guy leaves, he's not gonna get normal part-time anyway.
so that would get us about 4 days. of
Yeah,
coverage.
but I see what they're saying. I think we could do that
Yeah,
because if we are using that,
You're not
we're
gonna use
not
the line
paying the
above,
part-time one,
right?
but we're gonna be paying a lot more in the overtime than we would have been paying in the regular, so.
right. And the other thing too is that when a guy's on the overtime, the guy that he's subbing for generally doesn't get any money. I mean, so he's not, they don't get a ton of vacation or anything. So if they don't work, they don't usually get paid. So that money's available to pay the overtime coverage.
I think you have to look at that price difference too, cause you're talking about someone that's in the $18 to $20 an hour, and then you're jumping up to a DPW person that's 25 plus
And
at time and a
time and
half.
a half, yeah.
Okay.
So,
But I've been pretty happy we've been very good. I mean, I can remember the overtime budgets in days of old that were terrible, and we've been really, really lucky to have guys that are covering these weekend shifts especially. And have been pretty bulletproof doing it, and that, I give them a huge thank you for doing that, because that really has been good. Another thing that we might look at in, you know, in the future is maybe reducing some of the weekend hours. Especially like on a Sunday, maybe moving one of those to another evening during the week. I mean, I'd like to do a survey just to see if what we're doing is good.
I was just gonna ask you, Jim, if there's ever been any kind of survey to find out like what sort of time is being utilized.
Yeah, I mean, I think the schedule works great right now in the summertime because, you know, people that are going away, you know, on Sunday afternoon after being at the lake during the weekend, you know, they can go.
Yeah.
In the summertime, I don't think it is in the
winter.
in the winter. I mean, I think we get a huge,
The other thing we need to think about on that point is keeping employees.
yeah, right,
Cause we dropped down to 2 days a week. Is it worth keeping that job?
yeah.
And it's nice cost savings, but it's not cost savings if you're
Are we
losing
open
it.
all day long on Sunday now?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, so
Nice.
Sunday morning is fairly busy,
It is.
especially when church gets out, people always, you know, come down, but
Yeah.
you know, from like two o'clock to 4 o'clock is pretty quiet, so, you know, maybe we're in the morning then, and we could take those 4 hours and put them on a, you know, Friday or something like that, I don't know, we'll look at that.
You track the traffic?
That's what I was.
I like,
I have not, and I don't really have a good way to do that, but,
Just by the number of
We have-
vehicles that come through.
well, I mean, somebody's gotta stand there and count them, and my guys are too busy to do that, but, you know, that could be something we could, you
So
know,
are
have
they-
somebody do.
Always supposed to be outside of that little house?
Not necessarily, I mean, they should be able to go in and get warmed up on some.
No, I know that, but I'm saying
Yeah.
if there's a lot of activity and people there. I mean,
Yes, yeah, and they are, and,
I'm there almost every Wednesday and one day on the weekend, and I'm very impressed with what they do.
Yeah.
They really help people.
Mhm.
They have to tell people sometimes, no, you can't dump that stuff here, and that is very
yeah,
difficult.
yeah, we're kind of retraining, some of the folks around that, you know, we're not a substitute for a Casella roll-off when you're cleaning out, you know, your house or, and that's what, we're getting that, and that kills us. If we go to the overflow, you know, it costs the taxpayers probably $500, you know, just boom, to get that extra service and so forth is a pain, so.
And it's up to them too, to monitor things like people bringing in, knotweed and all that. sort of
Yes,
stuff.
yep. Although I will say that the newer guy, Bill, I'm not sure if he probably should go to an invasives class so we can, you know, identify that. I don't know what his skill is on that, so.
Of course, one of the
That's
biggest
something we
stands
gotta
in
watch.
Dotweed was at the transfer
Oh,
station.
yeah, that's right.
I
Sure.
think it-
Now, do they only work at the transfer station?
That's
or-
right. Both of them are 3 days a week at the transfer station.
Well, that's gotta be tough.
Well, one of them, he likes to work 3 days a week. He doesn't want to work 5 because
Yeah.
we've offered him other shifts and
okay.
things. And then the other one, he just retired. And so he can only work 3 days a
Yeah.
week and with,
Well, you're lucky.
because he's a state retirement guy
Oh,
and
yeah.
so.
They're really good.
restricted. Yeah,
They always have dog biscuits too.
yes.
I think it's good to keep both days on the weekend,
Yes,
because some people, either Saturday or Sunday is very busy, and it's nice to have the option of being up either day.
yeah.
My big social event of the week.
Well, you know, it's amazing how people have an interesting relationship with their trash. And some don't want it. My wife is one of them. She doesn't want it in our house for more than about 5 minutes. And so we actually have people that go every day it's open and they bring this much trash and throw it in the compactor.
Well, like I said, they work 24 hours a week, so you decide to take one of those days. Now they work 16, is it?
Yes,
Yeah, I think
do they want to still do it?
You wanna avoid doing that.
Yeah, cause as soon as we start getting a lot of turnover in that position, now it's more expensive than what we're
Overtime.
talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, that's right.
Of 2 days for both sides.
So, 4323. This is where the Casella contract is, they have we're under a contract where it goes up a certain percentage. That's figured into here. Pretty much everything else on here is level funded from last year.
And when is that contract ending, Jim?
was just renewed.
So we renewed it last year, so it was a 5-year renewal, yeah.
At this point, Charlotte, it should be in numerical order. So if we get there.
Hopefully,
Unless you start-
Oh,
Yeah.
after this one, maybe.
yeah,
Good thing it's not ending soon, because that's when they get us. It's
Right.
always the new contract.
It doesn't have any highlighting on the page either. So.
Guess we're sort of, strung around the neck with that anyways. It's not like there's a lot of, trash companies in the Upper Valley.
No, and there's a big, I just attended a big town manager thing in Vermont and New Hampshire talking about trying to get more options and different things with, there's so many rules, there's so many different things, it's getting harder.
What did they finally
Oh,
decide
that's what
about
we
the
did.
landfill?
Yeah,
Or-
I'm sorry.
I haven't heard
It's
anything
been
else.
legal for quite a while, but.
All ours goes to Lebanon, so we've been paying attention to that.
Well, great, but it's getting
Close.
They're starting 4 phases of work to start another portion of the land.
That's what too.
So we have about another 50 years is what they're talking about
That's what you're
in Lebanon. But they are, because they're doing the construction, we have a 15% increase this year and they're proposing a 12% for like the next 5 years. But it's still, but it's still way cheaper than going
Than
anywhere
any
else.
other place where you can dump.
Yeah, they're way cheaper than tipping fees. everywhere. We might not like it, but it's a good deal.
If it's gonna go up 15%, why is it level funded?
Because we just found that out.
I just turned to the next.
They should have been in order.
I'm gonna still try.
Yeah, I kept them in order. I
To
just
find-
put them this way.
There.
But it's 1-3. I was looking.
I've been really,
Oh, well, that would have been the problem.
we've been doing it so. So
4, 3, 2.
I thought.
Now they should all be in order.
Is it being-
So moving on to 4324.
No wonder I couldn't-
We just talked about just a minute ago, was the increase in the tipping fees at Lebanon. They're going to $120.75 per ton. 3 years ago, it was $75 a ton, so it's gone up significantly and it's gonna continue to go up significantly. But at a recent city council meeting, they were putting up they put up a visual of the 4 landfills that are available within 100 miles of here. And Lebanon was by far the cheapest. The next one was Bethlehem. They're at 124 right now, but they're going up. And there was one in Vermont in Coventry, and that one was like 146 or 148. And so, the tipping fees are quite pricey in other places. We're very lucky to have Lebanon close and to have to, and that's just the tipping fee. If we had to haul it to Bethlehem or to Coventry, that's a long way. Yeah. The other thing on here that we just got the bill from the Regional Planning Commission on our household hazardous waste. It was way more than I expected, which generally means that people really participated. So we did a good job of getting the word out. But it also has kind of exceeded what we had budgeted for this year and what we had estimated for next year. But I think I'm inclined to let it ride just because I think this is an outlier, not the trend. And been going back 5 or 6 years, we've never done $10,000 worth of household
How do
hazardous.
they determine the charge?
So when you show up and, they ask you what community you're from.
Yeah.
And
Say Canaan.
well, I don't know how much verification that they do, but I think they're gonna start looking for, stickers that the towns issue, like we have one, Canaan has one, and so.
So it's just by showing that, but number of vehicles that show up.
Yeah.
Well,
And what you bring.
what they bring, yeah, what you bring from what town, and then they process it afterwards, and some of the stuff is really, really expensive, like getting rid of pesticides and that sort of thing. And then, batteries and some of those things are not as bad, so, but they apportion to what we brought to what we do. And there's a down payment due in April to participate, and then they usually make it up at the end with the final bill. So we just got that like a couple days ago.
The other thing we're gonna be pushing, we participated in a webinar with Lebanon and we're gonna be pushing, which might help us here too, is pushing to increase recycling, and then they're pushing to start trying to teach people and help people do some composting, which will help the landfill last longer, but it'll also reduce our tipping fees, those types of things if we do that. So,
I think it'd be great to have classes in town to teach people. I drive around and look at bins and go, you know what? I really feel bad for those Casella guys, really and truly, because people don't care and stuff is piled up, boxes not broken down, the bins are overflowing, and I
Yeah.
drive by and go, seriously?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
just,
we're being asked by Lebanon to do some sort of outreach, especially on
I believe it.
contaminated recycling.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. And they've actually instituted a fee for sort of mislabeled recycling. You know, if a guy's going out and saying, oh yeah, we'll take your recycling as recycling, and then they go dump it at the landfill and they see a load of recyclables there, that's gonna be $320 a ton or something like that. So it's like a fine almost. And,
our recycling doesn't go there. It goes
Yeah.
to Rutland through the Casellas.
Oh,
System.
okay.
So, you know, our recycling doesn't go there, but if we can get more recyclables out of the solid waste stream, then it doesn't go to the landfill. It reduces our tipping fees. If we can get compost out, food waste is heavy, and that's tipping fees.
I think.
So, you know,
Then I see the private garbage things go flying by my house. People that get their garbage picked up and his truck is like overflowed, flying out the back.
Yeah.
I wonder, Jim, if
call our police.
educationally.
No, I stop him because I know
I
him.
feel like
We can write tickets
maybe
for
the
that.
town could provide a little unit to the elementary school kids.
That's a good idea.
Because I know when my kids went through, you know, they came and did, one of the first grade teachers did, you know, read the calories and the sugar and the salt on the package. Pretty soon, everything's coming off the shelf because kids believe.
Yes.
And they bugged their parents, and then they did a little bit on recycling, and pretty soon, you know, we're recycling faithfully, and
Yeah.
it's money well spent, it's an assistance to the school, but if you don't create change in your young people when they're still believe you, and are willing to do it, you know, by that, in a few years, they're gonna be adults, and if they've been trained, it's a lot harder to change somebody who didn't do it all their life.
And we do find it exciting to learn.
Right, right.
We started
yeah.
the whole recycling thing.
I don't
at
think it
school.
would be,
Especially for the elementary post.
That's right.
yeah, and the composting thing would be great. I know Holly and Kate with Friends of Massapequa, they did some composting with
Yeah,
kids.
we did have a class in here back early in the spring.
Yeah.
And we had about 22 people that came.
Not too bad, really.
Regional planning put it on, and they actually had some door prizes, which were fantastic.
They were giving out free compost bins.
Yes, yeah.
So,
Jim, do you still have the same
For a couple
opinion
of
on
years.
glass?
Glass is tricky. See, the
Yeah.
glass, for the moment, glass is still being run through the
Right.
zero sort stream.
Right.
But we've heard grumblings that there's not a lot of market for glass, and the weight is tricky to deal with. So if there's any edits to our zero sort program, it's probably gonna be that glass is gonna be changed to a different method.
Oh.
And,
Well, we may wanna talk to Lebanon. I don't know how we'll get it over there, but they want glass.
yeah,
Did they put it
But
in there?
how we get it over there and do that. is
that's right, yeah.
a little, I mean,
Did she used to grind it up and use it in your asphalt or something?
We did, yes, and
That's
I'd watched them grind glass. My first day, I was public works director, and I said, no way.
Right.
As the shards are flying all over the place, and the people with no safety glasses
protection.
on are within 10 feet of the thing. And so, yeah, I shut that down. It was one of my first things.
Yeah.
And then the glass that we had ground, we had bedded pipes with it and that kind of stuff, but we had a very bad incident on Westcott Road where we had a culvert that washed out and it washed the bedding glass out across a horse pasture. And I'll tell you, that guy, I thought he was gonna punch me in the face when he saw that. So I sent the guys down with the excavator and they went out and were able to sort of,
Turn it in.
clean it all up, and he was okay, but we said, yeah, I don't think we're gonna do that again. And so then maybe you guys remember, before we went full zero sort, we were collecting glass and we were taking it to the Lebanon landfill, and they would grind it and use it as drainage and that kind of thing in the landfill, which is an appropriate place for it. So
So another thought for manpower for the recycling and education is high school students can do what they call an extended learning opportunity
Mhm.
in the ELO, and they write it up. So they learn for themselves about this.
Mhm.
And then part of that can be that they provide workshops or whatever.
Mm.
And then they earn credit towards graduation.
oh, nice.
Okay, so you could do that into the, they can go to the elementary schools and do it, or they can do it in the community, but there's a lot of opportunity there. And I feel like for some kids, school's not their thing.
Oh, yeah.
But something practical like that is interesting to them, and they get pretty passionate about it.
Yeah.
And, it makes a difference,
It does.
and it's pretty much, you don't have.
No, that's great. And, one of my visions was to, especially like with the zero sort, is to actually have some YouTube videos embedded on the town website where people could go and kind of watch, because I know there's a lot of stuff that's kind of, does it go here or here? And,
Yeah, and I
one is like milk cartons, that type of, looks like cardboard, but that's not
It's not.
recyclable. It's garbage. So,
And
some of
maybe
those things.
occasionally in the town newsletter, you can say, did you know, don't recycle.
Right,
milk
yeah,
cartons
yeah.
or
And I can do the
whatever.
wrapping paper one. I've done that.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big one. You should do that.
Especially in
Remember.
That's right. Yeah, good idea. I
Definitely.
didn't put that in, but
And I'm one of those, and I'll put the plastic off and recycle the cardboard.
yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then we said a lot of people that want to, bag recycling. Well, if it's got a bag on it, the truck driver looks at that and goes, oh, let's go in the garbage. And so it needs to be sort of, so it could be put on the line without gumming up the mechanical.
And you can say, go look on the website to see what's recycled,
That's right.
but nobody does to
Mm.
speak of, and not everybody's got it in.
Mhm.
You know,
I'm always sending questions, Jim, about where does this go? I don't see it in
Yes.
this list.
Any other questions? Right, next.
So I'll move on to, water, which is 02. And the first one's 4313, and we've got,
4153.
excuse me, 4153, which is legal advice. And we haven't had anything in there for a long time, but
No, it's one of those placeholders. We could take it down a little bit if we need to,
Yeah.
but when we do need legal advice, we need a line to put it in for water or sewer. And
What sort of questions come up for issues with legal advice for water and sewer?
the one that we had this past year was, a woman thought that we were responsible for her service line. That had been installed incorrectly, when it was very clear in the video and everything, not water, it was sewer, it was a sewer line.
I know where that one was.
Yeah, and so, we heard from an attorney that was, coming after us, and, she called the state, she, was trying to do this, and I kind of held firm on it, because if I did that one, it would open a can of worms that would be hard to close. And,
we have that. We haven't expanded in a while, but if we do some expansion and need some easements or property
yes, that's a
purchases,
good
those
point.
types of things, there's,
Good example.
Yeah, and then when we did, we're doing projects too, like we had the big water project, and sometimes stuff comes up that needs to be,
Yep.
worked through on
Okay.
that. So 024155. There's really, things are pretty much employer,
This is just the water department's share of these costs.
yeah.
So, the health insurance was reduced a little bit based on the new plan.
So the. Oh, zero two, zero two, five, five, five.
Was it reduced?
This is reduced. This is 146.
Okay.
So, yeah, looking at, 4331, the telephone communications line, that's been changed. It's less, and I think that's because it's an apportioned an amount.
I went through everybody's bills for the past year, figured out what it was for, each month, and then figured out what it was annually. We added cell phone service to that, which you don't have a lot in here. Fax service and that sort of thing, added it all up.
Yep. The telemetry and SCADA, we typically get billed at the end of the year for that.
What is that?
That's for it's the remote monitoring of wells, pump stations and that kind of thing. So, my guys can actually turn well pumps on and off and we can monitor levels in sewer wells and so forth. The dues down to towards the bottom, that's the American Water Works is primary, but it's also Granite State Rural Water and New Hampshire Rural Water. They produce a lot of our trainings that we do. And there's a pretty good discount per member, so it does sort of pay itself back that way because we do have to do training to maintain licensing. The water quality monitoring, it's high this year because this was our PFAS sampling year. Every 3 years, we have to do PFAS sampling, which is, we're lucky because if you're having trouble, they make you do it every quarter. But every 3 years, we have to do PFAS on all 4 wells, and those are very expensive tests, and so that's why it's high this year, but next year it should be back to, a normal amount.
So Jim, the last 3 years, it's been over 7,000, and now we're dropping down to 5, that.
So, and the reason for that was when they started requiring the PFAS samples, we had to do it for 2 years in a row.
Okay.
And sort of establish our baseline, and because of that, now we're on a 3-year schedule, so it should be considerably less. And then 2022, that was when we had the big boil order year, and we must have done 200 different bacteria samples during that little stint. To the water operations.
4332.
4332, it's 024332. The electric utilities. I have reduced this quite a bit because I think the rates are down somewhat, but then also our solar installation. Whatever we don't use here at DPW gets credited towards, one of the well pumps, our main well pump. So, we've made quite a bit of power this year because it wasn't, dark and rainy like last year was. And so I'm fairly confident in that number, especially given what we've done this year.
So why is the solar linked to the well pump?
It carries over. If it runs DPW and then it just starts trickling down to everything else.
It's all in one account, I would guess.
Oh,
You can apply,
so we can use
Because
all the power.
they won't pay us for the elect overage, so,
but you can offset your usage.
yeah.
Right, and so essentially, the electricity cost for this building is 0. Because we make enough, but we're still producing, so now we're offsetting costs for electric well pumps. Got it. Okay, thank you.
It's a good year for Schultz.
On
So
the top line, contract services, we have 2,000 in the budget for this year. We're spending much less than that, but there's nothing in the budget for next year.
Yeah, this is one that I think we moved. It was it was for the radio reading system, and because it's kind of a package deal, we moved that into a different category. So, so we don't really have any contracted service with the water department at the moment, and other than ones that have their own line, like the SCADA program and that thing.
And Jim, what about the heating gas?
Heating gas, yeah, so we have two pump houses that have. No, yeah, for water, we have 2 pump houses that do propane. And typically, they get filled once every 5 years.
Oh,
And so. I don't know if maybe there's a better way to do that. I don't know. I don't think we're gonna need to buy any this year, so maybe we could take that out and sort of plan when we're gonna fill it. I don't know. I'll have the guys take a look at that.
see how full it is.
Yeah, exactly. Drop the gasoline line a little bit just because of based on usage. The distribution system and maintenance, we kicked that up a little bit just because it's costing us more to do the same things there. If you have a contractor come or if you're buying materials, they're quite expensive. Production and storage maintenance, we've left that level funded. Because again, the last couple of years, we've had a lot of well pump issues. And so I'm hoping those go away next year.
Right, but we've been high almost every year,
Almost every year, I know.
so is hope,
Is hope and reality.
what do
Yeah,
they
I'll
say?
have my guys look at that and just see
What do they say, hope is
what
not
they
a plan?
expect. No, right, yeah,
Jim, the meters and backflow prevention, is that to buy new meters with backflow preventers?
correct, yep. And it also is, it's helping to fund the radio installs that we've been doing. And we're at, I think, 86% of the water and sewer system for those installs now. So we're closing in on the end of that project.
Would our municipal water meter and backflow preventer fund pay for that? So that's certainly a capital expense, buying the new water meters, backflow preventers. Last audit showed this $14,000 in that fund.
It should.
Yeah.
And that's what it's set up for. I mean, we can definitely look at putting a little bit in.
Well, I thought originally that what we collected from the water, because we do a water meter fee every quarter. And to get that put into this, is it more trouble than it's worth? Probably.
So,
That's kind of what we've been doing. I mean, it's supposed to be transferred to that and it hasn't been, but we've been collecting that fee and it's going right back out in the same budget.
Yeah.
And so we are collecting a fee to cover that as well. So, I mean, we need to look at both of those. We need to keep.
It is an opportunity to use up that fund, which is just sitting there.
Well, we want to keep building that fund as well to replace meters and stuff in the future. So we can do either way. I mean, we can use that fund and then put money into that fund.
Looking for a chance to use $14,000 that's already in the bank.
Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that.
Doesn't affect us though.
What's the method for that?
well.
The select board
that's-
makes a vote,
We
that's
can
it.
talk about that, but it has to do with, I would need to know. For a vote by board, it's like by percentage. Which was collected.
Yeah.
That fund. I never seen.
It's like the gold line.
Without having that number, I can't have anything.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, we can look at this year if there's any that's supposed to go in, but. You know, we could look at moving like 10,000 from that fund.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sounds like that fund needs a plan,
It does need a plan.
Just
Right?
radio replacement.
nobody
plan,
is
a
using it
regular
and nobody really knows what to do with it.
Plan where
It
you
looks like.
The radio?
replace
Yeah,
so
so-
many every year.
Eventually, but right now we're just getting everybody installed. in.
Okay, but are you gonna do that?
Replace them every so often.
Just a
Yeah, they're supposed to
replacement
last 20 years, so
plan? Okay,
it's taken us three and a half years to get where we are now and probably have another half a year to get the rest of them in, so.
I mean, I think that's part of it. And we probably should look at when that fund was established and for what. I think it's for the long term to build. So next time we do a big project, we're not funding it on the water rates like we are right now.
What's the name of the fund?
The water meter backflow prevention, I don't know, not.
I was on the
Municipal
committee,
water meter / backflow preventer fund.
so I was on the committee and I chaired it when we set that up.
Yeah.
And the rates. And a long time ago.
And so
It was that if somebody's meter went, they would have already paid
Exactly.
for
for
the replacement,
correct.
so that they don't suddenly get that expense
Yeah.
on top of their regular bill. So the committee recommended that, which was what was adopted, but the plan piece of it would be up to the town. But I've had meters replaced
Yeah.
that I didn't pay for.
Well, we replace them.
Yeah,
We don't
Yeah.
make people pay for.
but there ought to be a plan because you ought to know whether you're collecting enough.
But when it's replaced, it's part of the water budget, so it
Right.
becomes part of the water rate,
Right.
so everybody's paying.
Well, throw another monkey wrench into it. We have water only customers, we have sewer only customers, and we have water and sewer customers. So this amount of money that got collected for this fund, is that water, is it sewer, is it both? How do you
Well, you have to
administer
have a
that
meter,
piece?
whether if you're a sewer only user, because that's how they
Right.
determine your sewer.
Yeah, well, no, I know that, but
Right.
I'm just saying that, yeah, when I give somebody a fee, like Gene is paying $4 a quarter, but only on the water side, whereas you might be, $2 on water and $2 on sewer. But it's the same meter, so
Right.
I don't know how you, and maybe you don't need to, maybe.
I think it can be simpler than that.
It's something we have to talk about.
Yeah.
So wait, if you're on sewer only, how is your usage set?
With the water. meter.
Water meter.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
That you then
Meter.
pump yourself?
Water in, water out.
Right.
Okay.
Yep, so we allow you to put your exterior sillcock ahead of the meter.
Yeah.
So you're not paying
For your,
for sewer based, with the stuff that's going out on the lawn essentially, so.
Okay. It sounds like the group, like not this budget committee, but people who manage the water budget and fund and setting rates ought to figure out what to do with that fund. Right? Keep it and.
Our select board are our water commissioners, so.
Well, we should look at that, because whatever fee we're paying should be in
should reflect it.
the budget as an expense. And whether we're putting that in to the reserve to use in the future, or. I mean, right now, I think we're collecting it and paying it out to replace
Yes.
meters every year. It's just,
Right,
How many meters do you replace in a year?
ideally, we would do probably 15% of the
Is that
system,
out?
so that might be 50 a year.
So do you do that on a schedule?
Well, right now, we've done way more than that because, again, we've been trying to do the radio installs, and so when we're doing the radios, if the meter is in need, it's going. So we've done, probably 150 or 200 over the last couple of years. And that's caught us up from not doing as many in the recent past. But that's not gonna be sustained. Once we're through this project, it will be back to, maybe 30 or 40 a year at the most, probably, so. Answer the question.
do we buy the,
Do we? I'm just wondering, is it worth it to lay out a plan that, all right, it's 30 a year or 50 a year? And these are the oldest ones and you just doesn't matter, you don't wait for them to fail.
Yeah, that's typically how we do it. It's usually a million gallons or 15 years is typically where we try to replace them at. And I think by and large, we've kept to that over the years. And we had a few in Shaker Village that were a lot older than that. But those have been replaced. So, yeah, I think we're on track.
Is it written down somewhere? Or is it in your head?
What, the ones that we've done? Oh, yeah, no, I have the numbers of the radios, the numbers of the
Replacement.
meters and when they were replaced on every account. It's part of the billing system, because
I was
that's.
gonna say, I'm sure it's pretty documented.
Yeah, the way the thing reads, it has to know those numbers, and those have to be in the system,
Mhm.
otherwise it won't read.
Sewer?
Sewer, 034153.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Principal and interest.
Principal expenses would be the payment for the water improvement project.
Yep.
We didn't have any actual expense this year. We didn't know when it was gonna close exactly. I think it's gonna close next year.
Yeah.
Soon, so and we won't get a payment until that happens. So it all depends on closing of the project.
And we'll continue talking about this on our side of things, but, you know, we're still building fund balance and those things, so. I mean, not that we don't wanna keep the budget as low as we can, but that money's going in to build the fund balance and.
Right, but that's the water fund.
Yeah.
Right.
Not my tax money.
Yeah.
So if there's something like that, it's not like, oh, you way over budgeted and we paid too much, you'd still be paying the same amount and it's going to build the fund balance.
Interest is the same thing, interest on that. Um, This expenditure is actually, just on the water treatment budget, which we didn't budget for because we borrowed.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? What was that?
What? For the water system improvements,
Yeah.
024909.
Gotcha.
There's an expense this year with no budget. That's because that is the expense for the project that we borrowed for. So we have loan expense, but we have to track the expenses.
Thanks.
So Jim, when is the next planned water and or sewer improvement, projects gonna be done roughly?
Next big phase.
Yeah,
The next phase, we hope to have something on town meeting for this year, which will be water. It will do May Street, Stevens, Wells, and Shed Street.
and what are we anticipating for cost for that project?
I think that's gonna be 1.5 or 1.8 million. And then the second stage would be bringing the, Marsh well online, the new one. And, I think they budgeted, I think it's 800 or 1,000 for that piece. So one or both of those one or the other or both might be on this year, depending on where we get to.
And the grants we can apply for again once it's approved or not.
It's the SRF loan
Okay.
that we put in for, and then it comes with, usually with some sort of forgiveness, but we don't know what that is until we
Yeah.
apply for it.
Yeah, and then there might be some grants for for lead replacement, which
Right.
we expect to encounter on those 4 streets.
This is something that looks like we missed. We should budget 25,000 for water capital reserve. We put that in every year. Build our capital reserve fund.
And this is a vote that the select board made to take this 25,000 this year, and put it in the reserve fund in accordance with the budget. So it will be coming out next month.
Okay. So you'll fix that?
Yeah.
How so?
Yes,
So putting money in for legal is the same reasons as for the water system. More of a placeholder than anything. 034155. One of you guys want some comment on health insurance?
Just, we reduced the health insurance in this line, requested because of the new plan. That's a little lower than what you originally had seen.
So 034321, which is the admin section. The telephone and internet, you guys have heard the reasons for those changes. The dues down at the bottom here, that may need to be relocated in another year. It's to cover the online subscription for the radio reading system, the Neptune radio readers that we use. There's an online tool that actually load all the readings into, and then from there we load from that into our Avatar utility billing software. And that's an annual fee. I think we put it in there because we don't really have a line.
That sounds like the kind of thing I would put under repairs and service contracts. That's where we put all our support for Avatar.
Yeah, maybe that's where it should go. So I'll probably change
We
that
can
then.
shuffle things around a little bit without raising the budget.
Anybody have any questions on the admin section?
So Jim, just a crazy question, and it's just curiosity, the travel, I mean, did we really pay someone just $4 for travel for something?
Probably.
If
Gas.
if
Yeah.
they use their personal car to run across town to do something or something, they turn in mileage for that.
Oh, okay.
Right, and so, and then this year too, we had, I think we had 4 trainings in this room, which of course logs no miles. And then the other piece of the puzzle too was the water show that or the water and sewer trade show that we went to. I actually rode with my brother, my other brother, not Rob, but the other one. And he drove, so that was on the Meriden Village Water District.
Oh.
Okay, for that.
So yeah, I don't know what that would add up to, but they may have ran to Canaan for a part or something and
Yeah.
used their personal vehicle instead of the town vehicle, so.
I mean, do we only have just the one? I may have seen it, utility water truck or no?
We have the blue one and then we have the bigger utility truck that we share with Highway.
Oh,
The one that has
okay.
the crane and then,
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
the guys have asked us to get a meter reading truck, like a little small truck for running around, but I said, not this year.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
yeah, exactly.
Buy an electric.
We need to keep one for Dan.
That's right,
sometime.
Dan.
Then they can use it to run around.
Although he loves that old junk truck that we still have that we can't kill.
That's okay.
Yeah, 1996, we've had that one since. That was a water truck back in the day. And then so the sewer operations budget fairly level down through. I've reduced the odor control line because we've been working really closely with Lebanon. And for us, our piece of it has been doing the work and they've been paying for the material. So it's really worked really well for us. Typically we were buying the barrels of odor control, but they said, no, we'll pay for that if you guys sort of just, do what we tell you to do. And so, we get calls from them once in a while, can you up it? Can you down it? Can you change it around? And since our 2 stations contribute about 75% of the material that has caused the odor problem, it works pretty well. And then this year, they finally got around to putting an odor control unit into their own station, which is out on 4A, which collects about 40 of our addresses as well. And includes the campground and the mobile home park that's out there. But since they did that, they really feel like they've had it licked after this year. They really didn't have hardly any complaints like they've had in the past, so I think we're on to a kind of a winning,
It's there.
winning strategy. And then, the team that they have over there now has been really great to work with, and that wasn't always the case. So I appreciate the goodwill back and
Yeah,
forth.
all around, I'm gonna jump right on the back heels of that and say, we've got a really good partnership with the town of Lebanon right now, and I've worked with Sean Mulholland. Jim's been working with Jay. We are happy to let you guys know that the town came, or the city came to us, we worked together, and they have worked with their city council. Last night, they approved no rate change on sewer. And we're actually looking at a formula that's probably gonna pull our rates down a little bit in the future, so. They've been a great team to work with, they've really been trying to be helpful, and
But, relationship doesn't happen by accident, so thanks.
No,
to you
yeah,
guys.
exactly.
No, thanks, appreciate that.
Yep.
What about the collection system maintenance, the hiccup?
Election system.
Oh, yeah,
Wastewater treatment.
432-601, 430.
Yeah, I mean, we're high this year. I don't expect us to be as high. We did a couple of wet well cleanings that were extremely expensive to do. Those are gonna probably be done once every 3 years, and we'll be able to spread them out. So we're not doing 3 in 1 year. This was kind of a catch up because the previous year, of course, we lost one of our operators to a heart attack, and then we had, a couple of big projects going on that had taken a lot of their time, so they didn't get much done on that end last year.
Okay.
And so again, we're maybe I'm a little too hopeful, but
Well, I think if you look at the bottom line as well, we're still
yeah, right.
under budget in other places.
And this last line is what you're saying will freeze this year, the 432603 413, the last line.
Yeah,
Well, no. They charge us a rate, just like we're a user. Our sewage goes through a meter and they charge us a rate. Lebanon sewer rates got an 8% increase, but they worked with their council.
Right.
To hold ours because we believe they're gonna go down in the future because we're doing it. It's not necessarily the wastewater treatment number.
So I'm just asking, is the 690 realistic, or is it more likely to be what it was this year? Or are we still waiting for a couple of months to hit? So it's.
I'm comfortable with the 690. This year, we had a very dry summer. And so we ended up hitting it just about perfect. But I don't expect next year to be quite as dry as it was, but again, you never know. Because we do have a lot of I. We do have a project that's out to bid right as we speak here that is gonna address a lot of that. But I don't know exactly when that will be completed. It's next year, but I don't know if it's gonna be early, late. It's kind of on the contractor.
So what rates are not increasing?
The sewer charge rates going to Lebanon
For treatment.
for the treatment. Yeah, it's this one, but they're freezing it, but
But then there's still the variability of our usage. So if our usage goes up, the value will still.
Yeah. And as we add the 6 apartments on Main Street that just opened, those
Right.
things, our usage will continue to climb.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this is another one, I don't wanna. I mean, this is another one where we're trying to get back to 0 on the fund balance, so, you know,
How negative are we still?
we don't have that exact number right now, we were 80.
We were at 100, we had 106,000 to go at the end of 2022. We
Okay.
don't have our 2023 number.
Got it.
Can you give me just a quick, I don't want to hold us all night, but just a quick explanation of that? What is the fund balance and why is it negative? If it's not quick, we can take it
It's
offline.
negative because in the past they overspent. Your fund balance is really your savings account that goes along with your. So they drew it into a negative, which is a very bad thing. You should have I'm not gonna say substantial, but you should have a fund balance there to pull on if needed.
The rates weren't keeping up with the expenses.
Got it.
Right.
Got it. Thank you.
The bank account was negative.
Yeah.
And it kept going negative for several years.
You guys should work with our federal government.
They did, trying to get away.
So principal, interest, loan.
For sewer, we only have a very small, we have the 2012 force main SRF loan that we pay on. So it's very small.
And then when this project comes in,
It'll go up.
yeah, but we haven't even used up the ARPA money yet, so it's.
And it's not until we close the whole thing that we start, you know,
Knowing
the
what
law,
that- yeah,
you know what it is. So it'll be.
Capital reserve is 0 again.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was afraid that was gonna be the case.
Yes,
Any concerns about using up that ARPA money? Is there any timeline that you could be threatened with under the new?
there is, we have to use it before the end of 2025. And we should be on schedule for that. Because again, the project's is out to bid now, and so we will exhaust that with that piece of it. And then the next piece is some sewer station stuff, but that will be on the SRF, and they're a little more flexible for the SRF.
Okay.
Those two projects.
The one to clean the holes where water comes in when it rains.
Yes,
Oh,
Yes, repair and line pipes and fix manholes and stuff.
infiltration of stormwater.
Penetration.
right.
The very last thing we have is the huge paving coming out of TIF funding.
Yeah, we've discussed
Oh, yeah.
that.
Yeah, so we're gonna put a top coat on the entire used parking lot. And get that right this year. We got a ballpark figure from Blacktop, who just did Whitney Hall to do that for us, and It was, around 50,000.
Hope you get the first string for that, not the second, Tim. I know that's not your choosing.
What does that mean?
You get the second string instead of the first. And you get a crappy job instead of a good job.
Yeah, most paving companies definitely have the varsity and the JV. team.
Yeah, that's
Some have
probably
the
a better.
third team.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the ones that did.
That's
some
happened on
work
Livingston.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
that we're gonna get fixed.
That was the freshman team.
You're giving them a lot of credit.
Budget updates?
Um,
You have any?
I don't have much more than I told you last time. We did make the changes. I don't know if I told you I got the final approval, if you will, from the finance software team to do, we budgeted what, 30,000? We budgeted 30,000 instead of the 67 that it was gonna cost for this 2025 year. They allowed us to break it into 2 years if we go ahead and move forward. So we've made that change. We pulled that back down. We do have a little money in for the software that we'll have to keep this year because it's a year out once you sign up to get it. So with that, I think we'll be fairly level funded for 2 years if we decide to move forward and do that project, which I hope you allow us to do. Our software is horrible.
And any chance they will present in December?
I've been talking to them. It looks like they're gonna present at the first meeting in December. We'll
Okay.
probably put them first thing on the meeting, and I told them to go like high level, and I'll talk to them again, overview of the program, if you will, a little bit, if they can on permitting. Sometimes it takes different people to do different parts, but I told them to focus on the budgeting section so you guys can see what the budgeting looks like and what the forward facing dashboard and stuff that you guys will get to see looks like. And you'll get a really good flavor even from that, just the automation and how the system works. But, you know, I look at it from the long term. Not only is it much better software, there's a lot better security, like permission levels within the software. The one we have now, you either have permission or you don't. For the most part, I think there's one level in there. There's some data entry, and then you have open access to everything. And so this one gives a lot more of that. The automation, as we automate, it takes a little bit less staff time, which means we're probably not in a place to reduce staff, but it'll help in the future not have to add more staff as things get more and more complicated like they do every year.
So Ed, is this a software system that any other town around uses or?
Newport uses it now. Campton is moving to it. There's 5 or 6 that are moving to it this year. Almost every municipality in the state of New Jersey uses it right now, and they've really been putting a push in the New Hampshire area. But I have talked to Newport. I talked to their town manager and their finance people, and they're really happy with it. They said it seems to work pretty seamless. My concern was, does it work well with New Hampshire retirement system and stuff? Because that's a little nuanced from other states and a little different, but
Yeah. I'm just curious about like Lebanon and Hanover, like what sort of systems do they use and?
Lebanon uses BSNA. I was in Claremont and we did a joint RFP with Lebanon to look at BSNA. It's a little more robust and more expensive than this program, but then when I talked to them as well, they said it's actually pretty quirky. I don't know that they're super happy with it, but it's doing the job. I don't know what Hanover uses. I can look and see, but there's not a lot of companies out there, and in the mid-range, which is where this company is, there's really not much. There's a couple others, Tyler, which is mostly, they seem to be a lot more in the school district type of thing, but they're really expensive. And then we did look at OpenGov, which is kind of like the best of the best finance software for governments, but they were asking 250,000 for their software. And that's way out of our league. So
I was just curious.
I did go through SimQuest, who's our IT company, and they did a nationwide search for finance software. And this Edmund software was one of 2 they brought back that they thought would be good for our size community.
So,
And the other one I'd never heard of and I couldn't find online. So that was a red flag to me.
Yeah.
So,
I'd like to have you and let's say in PowerPoint format, present that. because then we're gonna use that for the public hearing. Separate from what these people will present, right? Because the software people come in, they're not gonna talk about all these other competitors. And
Yeah,
then,
we can talk about the search that we did. I talked with Eric, I was gonna say Benici, but I actually talked to Eric Russell a little bit about and I think I talked to you some too, about who was involved in the process of looking at the different software. And I did the initial outreach, but then we did multiple demos with, I made them do a lot. It was usually me and I kind of bet, is this something we can do? And then I'd bring Elisa in and we'd look at the budgeting software, some of that. If she liked it, we would bring in the AP payroll person to look at what they would do. And then Edmonds is the only one we got far enough that I brought in the code enforcement officer and planning department to look at their planning and code enforcement software, which I think is a really good deal. And I need to bring the actual payment software in, but we've been looking since I got here, so almost 3 years at code enforcement and permitting software to implement that in our program, and it's running about $15,000 just for permitting software. So by putting it in with the finance bundle, it's quite a bit cheaper overall, so. And I think that'll be a huge service way, not only tracking our permits and those things, but making it a lot more user friendly for people to be able to go online and fully apply for a building permit and pay for it online and do all of that work. And converse, and then it records all of those transactions, so we have a really detailed record. The other thing it does, because it's with the finance software, is it all talks, so when someone pays for their building permit, it automatically goes into the GL. It does all the work it needs to do on the finance side. They also have a time card system. We're still doing manual spreadsheets by hand for most people on time cards, and this will do through telephones and everything. It'll do automated time cards, which will automatically data enter into the software, which I don't know how many people have done payroll in the past, but when we get a stack of time cards and somebody has to sit there and data enter everything all day long, it's a pretty big time waste.
So there's no accessibility at the moment for people to like even log in on their computer and sort of clock in.
Nope, it's a spreadsheet that I do on my computer and put my time in every day.
So people just,
Then I print it, someone else retypes it into the computer.
so people are just manually filling out a time card?
So there's a lot of automation that'll make things much smoother, a lot less mistakes, a lot of things that'll go along with that. So.
cybersecurity, unless anybody else has questions. Cybersecurity.
So I
Anybody
give
have
you
any
that.
questions for me?
Nope.
No, I don't.
You want to be here for this one?
Yes. Well, I will say, we probably should do some cyber training.
That's
All
coming.
of us.
Yeah.
Just
That's
keep
in the
up good
budget.
work.
That's nice. Yeah.
It's in the
Thank you.
budget.
Thanks,
I have
Jim.
money, it's coming sooner, but-
Yeah.
So, yeah, with this thing, cybersecurity, more robust cybersecurity training stuff. We've had a little bit through our insurance company, those types of things, but I'm looking with Simquest on Knowledge Wave to do one where they actually fish your people for you and try to get them to fall for tricks and then force them to take more training.
So,
I
Ed,
get them every month at work. And if you fail,
Mm.
you get one every week until you pass 3 in a row, and then you get them every month again.
I'm just curious, a couple of questions. First of all, I'm wondering, this event that took place recently, was that the first time that had happened with an employee?
The phishing attempt or?
Mhm.
No, we actually caught one earlier in the summer and we talked about the procedure that people were supposed to follow multiple times throughout the summer because we've had different emails and things come in. This one was a little bit more sophisticated as we dig in, but the procedure was still the procedure. And
Was that the paycheck issue that where the checking account number was changed for an employee?
earlier in the year?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was it the same person that made that mistake?
and we had caught that one
Yeah.
before anything left But
And my other question, the big question is, what is the plan for sort of making up this money? I mean, obviously, that's a huge amount of money and somehow, in some way, it's gotta be made up.
yeah, first off, we have to know how much money we actually end up losing.
But we all know that's not gonna come back immediately. Right?
The money that is frozen should be back, I'm gonna say within the month now. They said about 6 weeks.
Well, that's not bad.
probably.
That's
So,
pretty good.
yeah, so
And that's the
That's
that's
big
the
with
450?
that's the 450-ish.
Okay,
There, nobody will tell us the exact number. The person that we did get to tell us the 450 made us sign a thing saying if it actually isn't that number, then we won't go sue them. And so it's
That's interesting.
it's hard to deal with, but when we get that money back, we will confirm the exact amount as soon as we know what.
but even if, we'll say, we'll just use a wild thing, even if we ended up getting definitely like 500,000, that's still another huge difference. I mean, those monies have gotta be made up somewhere, so I'm just wondering, what is the plan for that?
Right now, we just need to see what that is. It's in Public Safety Building Fund. So, you know, we're managing, doing change orders every day. My hope is we can get that down and then get some insurance money to get it in a place that's manageable and I can manage it out of the Public Safety Building without cutting it. If not, as I said, and the paper said that, you know, we'll have to have a discussion with the select board and we'll have to figure out where and what we're gonna do, but.
I'm behind. People know more numbers than I do. So,
The payment that went out was $742,297, something like that. Don't quote me on the last three, but.
okay,
Sign,
And then we had about 450,000 that we've been told is frozen in a bank account in Bank of America. That should be returned to the town.
okay.
When we first heard that, they said it would take about 6 weeks or so to get it back. So, we're working on that. Mascoma Bank has already filed all the paperwork and the indemnity agreement and everything that they need to do with Bank of America to get that moving, but it'll take some time to get it back. With that, we have a $75,000 insurance plan that has they'll pay you up to $75,000 after a $50,000 loss. So we have enough money still missing that I would hope we get that whole 75,000 back, but it depends on.
There's probably some
Insurance,
qualifiers, right? I'm sure.
Insurance companies try not to pay you, so
Exactly.
that's what they do. So we're gonna be getting them information, going back and forth. They're gonna do their investigation. I hope we get 75,000, but I'm not trying to paint the picture that we're gonna get that. That's what I've really talked to the select board. Let's say 742 and 450, fairly confident on those. That's the gap I'm planning for right now. If we get more back, it lowers that number, makes it a little bit easier to manage that project.
I think the Bank of America won't tell you what the exact
I
number.
know.
I know.
Ridiculous.
That's kind of strange.
But there's.
They haven't told us anything, to tell you the truth, so I got it from somewhere else, but it's not them, but the people I talked to said they talked to them and got a number.
So there was $300,000 of cushion in the public safety building?
I wouldn't call it cushion, but there's always contingencies, there's always change orders, there's always different stuff. So it's not like, oh, you budgeted 300,000 more. You always budget contingencies. I'm gonna tell you, the police chief's doing wonderful things. We were planning on putting some ballistic steel in the front wall. It's a police station, people come in and shoot at it. He just got all the ballistic steel donated. So that comes out of the project, and so we are working hard, looking for grants, looking for donations, looking for anything we can do to get money to help that out.
$300,000 in a building project doesn't get you too far.
No, and then a $7.2 million one, $300,000 savings is actually not that hard.
Like the
Well,
glass
you had to have a
materials and
But
all
you
of
have
that
to
is-
budget what the budget says it is, and then,
but part of
you
that
know,
was a
it's looking like in the Whitney Hall Fund that we're gonna be able to manage to put $134,000 elevator project into that. it's not because we over budgeted the Whitney Hall one, it's because we managed the project. We didn't have a heavy winter, so the winter allocation money doesn't have to go in there because we didn't have to heat it the way we thought we would. And so there's so many variables in these big projects.
And it was in better condition structurally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a biggie.
Well, and we'll make those decisions. I'm not gonna say we're gonna shortchange the project, but when you get to a change order on a, do we really wanna do this or not? It's gonna add 5,000 to the project or 4,000 to the project. We'll make some of those decisions of no that we might have made as a yes, and we'll look at it. But like I said, we really don't wanna shortchange and won't shortchange the project. We're gonna do what we can do to try to get through it and see where we're coming to at the end. If we have another light winter, we have a winter budget to take care of this building. And so, they have fuel budgeted for propane to heat the building. If we have a light winter, they don't have to heat it as much. That money's gonna come back to the town.
Plus
if there's
they
a-
insulated early too. That was a big help. They insulated quite early.
Yeah,
That
Whitney
was
Hall,
big.
that helped.
So if there's say a 250K that's left over, when the project is done, you've done all your fancy managing, and where does that money come from?
It comes from the loan. So, the town's still paying it. It's just not more money that we have to come up with at that point.
So the loan would cover that.
We got the loan for $7.2 million. It came in, it went in the bank. We invested it. We've made 75,000 so far on investments.
So your hope is to do it for 6.9, 6.95 type of deal?
Yeah.
That's your goal?
It's always been my goal. Doesn't change now. Now it's like, okay, instead of trying to go back and get more money, if we can manage this down, it absorbs into the project. It's still not a good thing to deal with, but definitely heighten the awareness, and we'll be looking at things a little more closely, but
And can we look at, so cybersecurity is not gonna get any better.
no.
In fact, it's getting more sophisticated.
Yep.
Um,
IT company said phishing attempts went up 300 times in the last
Yep.
Yeah.
In the last what?
month.
Month?
Month.
so
Oh, success.
can we at least explore raising insurance levels?
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, like
We talked about that at the select board.
I have $1 million for $13 a month. So I know.
And also to get a consultant to help you with
Yeah.
security.
Yeah, we'll run that through the security stuff through a consultant, and I'm gonna start with our insurance company and stuff. I see if they have somebody that'll help work on that without us having to go hire someone, but we'll definitely look at that. We can look at some.
Money well spent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would definitely recommend, if your IT system has like, they can send simulated attacks.
Yeah.
Um,
We're working.
I
on
fell
it.
for the first couple that were sent my way where I work,
It's so easy.
and it's like, now I know what to look for, so their
Yeah.
things don't work anymore.
The other thing we've already put in place through the select board is we had the ability for the one person to change it. Now it needs to go through multiple people to get done. And so at least there's more people looking at saying, okay, what procedure, the
Right,
one
but-
step in the procedure that wasn't followed was picking up the telephone and calling the company that and saying, hey, are you
gotta
doing
call
this?
us. You gotta get
Right,
someone.
but there's other ones too, right? Like where I used to work at a different company, they had a malware attack where somebody clicked a link
Mhm.
and it was like, if you want your computer and your data back, you
Right.
send us $25,000.
That was 2.5 mil.
Yeah.
But it was like, send us $25,000. They ended up paying it. And so,
We have a lot of those protections in place from the backside, and not only do we have those, but everything is like super backed up all over the place.
Yeah.
So we could say, yeah, no, and go back. They've gotten sophisticated that way too, though. They'll put those malware bots in and then they activate them 8 months later. So how far back do you go losing data before you? Yeah, so we've done that. We upgraded to the highest security, the new MEDR security. That's not just AI working in the background. There's other things, so they catch anything that looks weird really quickly. We did a lot of improvements this year. We added all the multi-factor authentication and stuff through everybody, even the select board who only has an email account and can't access anything else in town.
We do backups every day.
We do backups every night and it's continuous. It's not every night. It's data in the cloud. It's backed up all the time.
But like you said, they have the bots that go in after your backups. So
I mean, we continually update that stuff. We were updating procedures. It's just, you know, your people's your weakest link.
yeah, so the failure really was the person, right?
Right.
And that. How do you improve the supervision of that person doing what they're supposed to do?
So do we have different levels of people that can sign off on different amounts of money?
We have some of that. I mean, through our purchasing policy, there's approvals for that. Once it comes in, it gets paid. We do have our treasurer that, you know, she's not the one that prepares the check, but she's the one that signs the check. I check everything that goes out, or Elisa, but it's usually me that she prepares the payroll or the AP puts it all in there. It comes to me. My main thing is checking, what does this invoice say? Is that what we're actually paying? The other thing I do is if it's a company that I don't really know, I get online and I search and try to make sure that's a legitimate receipt from a legitimate company that we should be buying something from. And so we do that, and then the treasurer signs the checks, and then we also this year put in second authentication for electronic fund transfers. So the AP clerk pushes it into the bank, and then our treasurer has to go into our bank account, look at them, make sure it matches what's actually supposed to go out and push the button to go.
Now in place?
That was in place before this,
Yeah, but it doesn't include checking the account numbers.
but they're not
Right.
checking every
The
single account number.
They changed the.
It was the amount that was supposed to go out. It wasn't a payment that wasn't supposed to be made.
Yeah.
It was the right amount. It just.
Wrong
The
number.
only thing that surprised me, a very junior person could send out $700,000.
We only have one. I mean, we can double check that, but
Yeah,
I double checked the whole invoice anyway.
but it was the.
So the top person said, yeah, go ahead and pay this bill. I signed the bill and code the bill before she actually puts it in the computer. So, I mean, we have those approvals of who can actually authorize payment, but someone data enters and pushes the payment button. And
So one thing I don't understand, and again, you may not be able to answer it, like. Normally on a check, isn't it just like the name of who owns the account and the account number?
yeah, this was an electronic funds transfer.
Right, so but there's a name and an account number, right? There's a name and a bank
Right.
and an account number. Were those?
So the
hackers
name was
based-
the same.
They actually hacked into someone's system, or the Secret Service said they can actually catch emails in transit now. And
Right.
they
They opened an account.
through Bank of America, and they replied to an email chain from a month and a half ago that was a legitimate email chain back.
So they opened an account in the same name as the person who was actually supposed to receive the
The
money.
account number was different.
Wow,
In the bank, of course, it's all number, not name.
yeah.
So the only person that could catch that is a human that's reading the name.
And they did, I'm still gonna say they did a really good job if it went in that account and they were able to capture 450,000.
I'm wondering why they
before
didn't
it
catch it.
went more.
And wonder why they didn't catch it all.
Well, they had to start transferring money out, and something in their system said this isn't right.
Probably AI.
Probably AI.
Probably saying an empty account, $700,000 going in, and within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Small amounts are flying everywhere.
We train our employees not to answer an email, not to open an email unless you know the person, and same with phone calls.
Even if you know the person, if the message is not specific enough and it's kind of general,
Yeah.
that's not good enough. I will call
But that's
somebody
what
else
was
in
bad
our
about this
office.
one, because
and
it was,
say,
It was
"Was
someone
this
you
from
knew.
you?"
it was from the account person that
Yep.
worked with her to
Yep.
set up the original account. It was the email chain from her, same email address.
Yep.
And we even went in the background. Our police department deals with this all the time. And you can pull an email and they can kind of flip it around and look at the fingerprints behind it. And a lot of times it'll be from this person and the reply to goes to a different person, but you don't see that on the email. And we went in and it wasn't that. They were in a system somewhere and
So the reply to was still back to,
yeah,
the reply to was not joeschmo@gmail.com?
no.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I think they were
They're
in
getting
a
good.
system somewhere
Really?
In the middle, in the ether.
Yep.
and she didn't miss other emails. Cause I've talked to that company and they're like, no, she's still getting her emails, and but they locked their system down and went to their IT people and they're working on their end too, so. I mean, they've been good partners, if you will, on that side. As soon as I called them, they locked their system down, called them all the people they're working with, went straight to their IT and started having things gone through.
So
So it was,
Secret Service, are they still trying to get money back or?
yeah, they're still working. I worked with them some earlier last week to get them
Yeah.
like complete rights to everything in our system, so they have full access to our system right now, and
It's overseas.
yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing though, getting the feds involved like that is they may catch these people 2 years from now and you'll get a check.
Yeah.
And so you never know when it's gonna trickle back, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's bad out there. It's, and it's safer on the check side. That's part of the reason we now put the cap really quickly on nothing over 75,000 goes by electronic transfer. But I may have told you guys last time, but 4 communities have contacted me in the last year that their checks were intercepted in the mail, washed, rewritten and released. So they go after communities a lot.
Especially ones that they know have.
That's where the
building
money is.
projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. The cybersecurity people said that unfortunately,
Yeah.
all of our stuff has to be public and posted on the website and all that, and they're out there and they go, oh, they have a big project, we're just gonna start hammering them. And Lebanon's already been hit on theirs. I called them right after ours happened, said, watch, and I talked to the city manager, he goes, yeah, we've had a couple, probably the same people. Cause they said they usually stay in the same area if it,
Did they catch theirs or they lost a lot of money? too?
they caught it.
They caught it.
Yeah.
So, that reporter that interviewed you went over to the library and tried to, my wife was there for knitting and he wanted to interview her. She was, I don't know. He was looking for somebody to say something.
Oh, they try pretty hard.
Yeah.
Just trying to do their job, Dan.
I know. And then he went to Jake's and she went to Jake's and she comes walking out, she says, now? And she said, still no.
Wasn't it Liz Santelli? Santelli.
No, that's not who I talked to from either.
Oh.
Even Valley News wasn't. Somebody else.
Well, folks, can I make a motion to adjourn?
Yep.
We don't have to vote, right? We're adjourned.